Morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's very happy to this all together. Just a quick hosting housekeeping measures. For everyone who is, would kindly remind you to put up your background. And with you, I introduce our project director, to Karatai, with her first panel, please.
Thank you very much, Lola. Dear First Deputy Minister, Mrs. Nino Tandilashvili, dear representatives of the EU delegation to Georgia, dear representatives of the AFT, and dear participants. It's our pleasure to have you all in our conference of FinExCoop on smart technologies and agrarian innovation in Georgia from the EU Green Deal perspective. So the aim of our gathering today is to think together with a long-term strategic vision and to act together with the promotion of concrete institutional and technical measures which can be put in place on timely manner. So FinExCoop's goal for the conference is to promote the strategic transfer of technologies in a way that is economically sustainable and also socially inclusive. And to this end, we have organized a series of working group meetings to gather stakeholders and innovation solution providers. So as FinExCoop, we are convinced that Georgia can take advantage of a new technological revolution emerging in global agriculture through a combination of better information on innovative technologies on the one hand, and well-structured pilot implementation on the ground on the other hand, in close partnership with leading global providers of those technologies. So today we will dig into such topics through a number of speeches and plenary sessions by experts and practitioners working in the field, and we are all so excited. So in this first panel, we will hear the speeches from the Minister of Environmental Protection and Agriculture, EU delegation, AFD, and FinExCoop team. So for the first presentation, I'd like to give the word to Mrs. Nino Tandilashvili, First Deputy Minister, Ministry of Environmental Protection and Agriculture, for a speech on the need for agrarian innovation in Georgia and EU integration perspective. First Deputy Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure and honor to be here today at this conference, which is organized by FinExCoop Georgia, focused on smart technologies and agrarian innovation in Georgia from the EU Green Deal perspective. We all understand that the aim of this conference is in line with the previous FinExCoop events and is collectively strategize and implementing the concrete measures that can drive progress. Let me begin by emphasizing our strategic vision for Georgia, for its citizens, for the government as well. Of course, our historical, cultural, and democratic ties firmly link us to Europe, and our long-standing cooperation with the European Union, especially in agriculture and rural development through EU-empowered program, has been instrumental. We firmly believe that EU integration will strengthen our democratic governance and foster sustainable economic and social development in the country. And of course, additionally, it is important to highlight that Georgia's unique geographical position as a crossroads between Europe and Asia positions us to facilitate the EU's positive influence in the Silk Road region as such. The new EU CAP aligns closely with the goals of the EU Green Deal. It represents a shift towards subsidies that reward farmers for their positive environmental impact, reflecting the evolution of the CAP through different phases. To prepare for EU integration, of course, Georgia is also following and observing the EU Green Deal process to align its agrarian strategy, its agricultural strategy with the evolving Green EU acquis communautaire. And it should be also mentioned that the state policy for agriculture and rural development in Georgia is implemented as per Agriculture and Rural Development Strategy of 2021-2027, which has been approved by the government of Georgia and which was developed based on the Common Agricultural Policy principles of the European Union. The strategy itself recognizes rural potential to deliver innovative, inclusive, and sustainable solutions for current and future societal challenges such as economic prosperity, food security, climate change, resource management, and of course, social inclusion. It also promotes diversification and fosters entrepreneurship, investment, innovation, and employment in the rural areas and in agricultural sector as such. Georgia's challenges actually lies in the registration of significant portion of its agricultural land, particularly pastures, and of course enhanced animal identification is also needed, and we are intensively working in this regard with the other government agencies and other government authorities for the land registration process, and also together with the NFA and National Food Safety authorities on animal identification and registration systems. Of course, we all understand that these tasks demand increased data capture and processing capabilities as well. Thankfully, the global big data technological revolution and all the developments in the technology simplifies the data collection and processing, of course, with the potential cost sharing among the users. One pivotal smart technology for agrarian innovation is, of course, satellite imagery, complemented also by the artificial intelligence, and it offers valuable insights for managing Georgian territory, agricultural land, protected resources, vulnerable environmental areas, and satellite data can also support parametric index-based agricultural insurance, as well as aiding countries with a limited prior experience in this regard. But anyhow, financial institutions can utilize this data to assess some of the important information. So Georgia can leverage its position by leapfrogging from the traditional approaches as to most the developed ones. So expanding through the traditional methods that would require actually more comprehensive approaches and more modern technology investments in the countries. And of course, we all understand that new technologies offer the possibility of delivering critical information to hundreds of thousands of farmers effectively and efficiently. And it's, of course, widely used in many EU countries. And so we are also on the path to replicate these practices in Georgia through using different types of modern technologies. Of course, it's as a last point, I would like to highlight that the progress is, of course, already underway in Georgia. With pioneering organizations, including the Agricultural Scientific Research Center, through development projects, and also the private sector that is the part of this process, and they are aiming to actively develop smart technologies in their operations. And these processes and these efforts are supported by the Working Group on Smart Green Technologies, which is launched by the FinExCoop Georgia, and aims at building a knowledge platform that, of course, promises the positive results in this regard. And furthermore, Georgian government seeks to strengthen its ties with leading international providers of advanced smart technologies and green technologies, and an objective underscored by our participation in the French Sommet de Levage in October 2023, where Georgia serves as the guest of the honor. And it would be, of course, the perfect opportunity for government representatives from respective representatives from different agencies and private sector to get closer to the modern technologies. And in conclusion, we are confident that Georgia, with combined resources and determination of the state and private sector, will align itself with EU Green Deal upon becoming an EU member state, and this is, of course, in our ambition. And in this path, we are committed to pursuing. And I would like to thank all our partners, international donors who are supporting our government and our ministry in this challenging but very important path. Thank you very much for your attention. I wish you a successful conference today, and of course we stand ready for future cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister, and also thank you for taking your time during your trip to join this event. Now, I would like to leave the floor for Dr. Ketevan Kochishvili, Program Manager, Emergency Management, Civil Protection, Rural Development, and Intellectual Property of the Delegation of the European Union to Georgia, on his presentation on EU Green Deal and how it can apply to the EU strategy in its cooperation with Georgia for agriculture and rural development.
Thank you, Kansu. Good morning to everybody. I will try to be as brief as possible with these greeting remarks, particularly as we are very grateful to FinExCoop for all the good work done so far, and of course putting together this complex conference, which serves the interests not only of the program that FinExCoop is all about, but also of the parties involved, and specifically needs and policy directions that the European Union in Georgia has. Now, if I briefly address the points following to what we heard from the Deputy Minister on what the Green Deal content is all about, as I'm asked to also briefly touch upon this. This would entail as basic and as simple elements as fresh air or clean water or healthy soil and biodiversity. Probably there is not much that we can argue against the need of any of these, including, and on top of this, renovated and energy efficiency buildings or cleaner energy, cutting edge clean technological innovation. Along with this, the EU Green Deal presumes that there should be future-proof jobs and skills training for the transition to the full Green Deal reality. But also this would entail healthy and affordable food, more public transport, as well as longer lasting products that can be repaired, recycled, and reused. And of course, globally, this would lead to the globally competitive and resilient industry. Again, very few, if any, arguments could be put forward against any of these very tangible and very needed results, probably, that the EU Green Deal is meant to achieve. Now, how the EU perceives this may be attained? There is the European package of policy initiatives, which envisage that climate neutrality may be or must be reached by 2050. And this process from the beginning to the 2050 is called the transition to the Green Deal, or the Green Deal transition. Of course, this process supports the transformation of the EU into a fair and prosperous society with a modern and competitive economy. And the process was launched in December 2019 as the last elections in the EU took place. The Green Deal underlines the need for a holistic and cross-sectoral approach in which all relevant policy areas shall contribute to the ultimate climate-related goal. And the package, as it was put forward, includes initiatives covering the climate, energy, industry, transport, the environment, as well as agriculture and sustainable finance, all of which are absolutely interlinked. When it comes to Georgia and EU's work in the prism of Green Deal in Georgia, we heavily support transition, respectively, and likewise in Georgia when it comes to agriculture and rural development policies. The Deputy Minister referred to the strategy that Georgia has for 2020 to 2027, which unifies agriculture and rural development policies. And all the elements that the EU has put forward in policy dialogue with Georgia are concerted around Green Deal initiative and the needs to attain the respective goals, which I listed above. How does it work? Georgia and European Union have comprehensive package of cooperation in agriculture and rural development, which is composed of two basic pillars. One is policy dialogue, where the two sides, EU and Georgia, agree on policy measures to be changed, which may include legislation or practices. And on the other hand, we have complementary support to this budget support, where international organizations or civil society organizations are supported by the European Union to work along the same lines. So all these support packages that EU has provided to Georgia, specifically in these two directions, rural development and agriculture, are centered around the priorities and principles of EU Green Deal to make sure that as much as it is possible with the realities in Georgia to lead to the transformation and transition to fresh air, clean water, healthy soil, and biodiversity. This is a long process. Again, the green transition is meant to last for at least the next 27 years, with little and big steps to attain the goal as it is envisioned in the EU Green Deal. And we are very hopeful that with the good cooperation with Georgian authorities, this will also be part and parcel of our future cooperation. With that, and let me thank the organizers of the event again, and wish you a very successful conference, which I unfortunately need to leave in about 20 minutes because I have other meetings piled up, so I will be physically needed elsewhere, but I wish you all the success today and in the future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kuchishvili. Now I would like to leave the floor to Mr. Tongi Vincent, Program Manager at AFD, for his speech on AFD's strategic commitment towards public goods and how does it apply to Georgia. Tongi, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Janzu. So, dear First Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Environmental Protection and Agriculture, dear representative of the EU to Georgia, delegation to Georgia, dear Christophe, dear Jansu, and all the FinExCoop team, and dear participants. First of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to stress the importance of public goods preservation and fair sharing for AFD, and the way we think it could apply to Georgia. As you may know, AFD Group has a mission to construct a world in common, a world that preserves and protects important public goods. Among them, you have of course, people, planet. So people refers also to health, planet also to health, climate, biodiversity, prosperity, and partnership. As an accelerator and facilitator, publicly funded development finance is essential for the collective preservation of goods held in common. And to achieve this goal, we have foundational commitments to promote these global public goods. The first one being the 1% Paris Agreement commitment. So this is linked to climate. As you may know, the Paris Agreement now stands at the heart of the AFD Group mandate. The agency seeks to draw on public and private resources to fund capital investment that protect the earth from climate change and biodiversity loss. And this is particularly important in the Caucasus region for us and in Georgia. The second important commitment to promote the global public goods is the 100% social link. So AFD Group bases its action on the capacity to reinforce social cohesion within population and between territories, reducing inequalities, particularly gender inequality, and increasing access to education, health, and social protection. And the last one, also an important one, is the fact that we seek to build partnership by design. So this commitment will apply a very simple principle. A project is conducted with a third party, and it's always better than the one undertaken alone. So the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the Paris Agreement on Climate requires a collective response through partnerships. This will reinforce, according to us, the intervention's comprehensiveness, the geographic universality and relevance at every level, from central governments to civil society. Today we will speak about this. I will try to be short, but just to say a few words on this. On these public goods that are health, biodiversity, and climate. And I wanted to mention the fact that when we are talking about health, we are not only talking about people, but also animals in the One Health approach. Healthy soils, as reminded also by Mrs. Kutijvili, a representative of the EU delegation, ecosystems health, and we speak about the necessity of recognizing the interdependence between animal health, human health, and environmental health, as it has been shown also during the COVID period. And having said that, so the importance for us of smart technologies and innovation in the agricultural sector for achieving this commitment. So the question that I think this conference will try to answer to is why smart. The first one will be why smart technologies and innovations matter. Schematically, I think we can identify 4 main types of lever for increasing agricultural productivity. The first one being the improvement of human capital, and this can be done via training, consultancy, education mainly. The second one is physical capital. So this was also mentioned by Mrs. Prime Minister, Vice Minister of the MEPA. So securing access to land is one of the key elements, and also securing access to production factor. And this is linked also to the access to finance, so access to credit, and the 4 lever is the technological lever, and so the fine-tuning and adoption of adapted innovation. And I think this is a lever that will be analyzed thoroughly during this conference. It is widely accepted that an integrated approach is needed to implement the Sustainable Development Goals, and fostering innovation appears key in this topic. And we are not talking only about technical innovation, but also organizational innovation, partnership innovation. And we would like to stress the importance of supporting research and development programs for technical, technological, digital, social, and economic innovation, and to highlight the importance of testing innovation. And this can be done through pilot approaches like the one that is successfully developed through the FinExCoop project, and finding the most efficient and smart ways of disseminating those innovations while staying connected. That's really important, staying connected to the beneficiaries' needs. For example, and this, I think you will go deeper during the conference on all those things, but improving traceability and quality, including food safety of products in value chains from farm to fork, will require relevant technologies and digital innovations. Improving productivity in the context of climate change will require efficient phytosanitary control systems, reliable as well as timely dissemination of agrometeorological information, and that could be done, as we will see during the conference, with some tailored smart technologies. And last one, improving resilience against climate change. Last example, impacts will require innovative agro-insurance schemes, which themselves depend on cutting-edge satellite imaging technologies. And the list could go on. So the second question we would like to address is the question of how does this apply to Georgia? I'm not going to speak too much of the many benefits deriving from the implementation of the FinExCoop project, as this will certainly be done by Christophe just after my speech. And I take this opportunity to newly thank the European Union for having entrusted AFD with the management of this ambitious program, and of course to thank the MEPA and its affiliated structure for their unfailing commitments since the launch of the FinExCoop program. We strongly believe that Georgia can extract strong benefits from strategic technology transfer, as long as this transfer is sought to be done in an economically sustainable and socially inclusive way. And this is all the more relevant in a context of tightening links and converging strategic visions with the EU, as evoked by Mrs. First Deputy Minister, and especially its Green Deal with a special focus on finding the suitable pace of transition, as referred to by Mrs. Kutishvili. As you know, Caucasus, as well as the Iran Anatolian are hotspots of the biodiversity, hotspots identified by Conservation International. So this is a great wealth for Georgia. Georgia's ecosystems are highly diverse and special. They are extraordinary in their diversity and ecological value. Biodiversity in Georgia provides life-sustaining ecosystem services, natural resources for the population, and supports the sustainable development of key economic sectors as agriculture and forestry, but also hydropower and tourism. There is an high potential in Georgia for developing nature-based tourism, ecosystem tourism, and ecotourism, and so this is a great wealth for the country. As far as climate change is concerned, we can say that the impacts of climate change are already felt strongly in Georgia with the growth of annual temperature, like in the Black Sea coastal zone, annual levels of precipitations that increase, for example, in the Svanesi lower mountain or in the Adjara mountains. Forest ecosystems are already affected with pest and disease spreading, tree species substitution. There is a high impact on pasture, and unfortunately, as we have seen recently, the increasing frequency of natural disasters. So for us, there is lots to do in Georgia towards those public goods. And there are many axes of development, like climate-smart agriculture practices like the one developed in FinExCoop, dissemination through efficient and inclusive extension services. But there is also lots of things to be done in the support to sustainable management of natural resources, including forests and protected areas, the improvement of rural infrastructures, the energy efficiency, as also mentioned before, but also institution strengthening, irrigation infrastructure rehabilitation and development, what is done through the Sustainable and Inclusive Irrigated Agricultural Development Program that will start, and that is co-financed with EIB for the modernization of the Zemur-Samgori system, and with ADB for the policy component, and of course with the huge support of European Union. And all those things done with a territorial development approach, I think is a way is important for the future of Georgia and could bring lots of benefits. So thank you very much. I will stop there, and because some of those questions will be addressed more deeply during this conference, and I want to really thank you for the organization, for your participation, and wish you a very nice conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tanguy. Now, as the last speaker of this first panel, I would like to give the word to Christophe Cordonnier, team leader of FinExCoop Georgia. Christophe, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot. Are you sharing my document, or should I share it directly? Huh?
Yeah, we can see it, Christophe.
But it is, I cannot begin it is shared by somebody else. Can you? Okay.
It is shared by our technical team. If you can say next, we can change the slides. Thank you.
Okay, good. Huh? Okay, come back to the beginning, please. Huh? Okay, greetings from France. I will try to be short on what has been our goals and strategy and implementation in the promotion of socially inclusive and environmentally friendly modernization of Georgian agricultural value chains, knowing that today we are here to listen the specialists who are both located in Georgia and abroad. Next, please. FinExCoop, as you may know, is an EU-funded development project in agriculture, which is implemented by AFD, financed by the EU, but implemented by AFD, with a consortium led by the Frankfurt School of Finance and Management. To summarize, it mainly aims at promoting family farm entrepreneurs geared towards the market. So we are not focusing on the micro, small farmers or on the larger corporate farms, but we believe that there is a need to reinforce the group of middle-sized farmers, which is the backbone of EU agriculture. The way we work is by a combination of think long, so agroeconomic research, policy advice, and act short approach with mobilization of professionals. Most of our experts are farmers, inseminators, specialists of machinery, and not traditional consultants. And they make with our pilot farmers experimental work and coach them in this in order to develop a platform of training for others. We have, as in our acronym, 3 key axes of work: better access to finance, better technical support through extension services, and better cooperation among farmers. Next, please. Now, what are the key terms of the equation of today? Now, first of all, as it has been very clearly pointed out by all the participants before me, we have a unique opportunity now to have Georgia joining the EU in a foreseeable period of time. No? And as we know, the EU Common Agricultural Policy remains the first EU policy in terms of budget. It has been the historical backbone of EU since the beginning of the building of the European architecture. So it is by far the biggest budget, if we deduct obviously the sum spent for post-COVID recovery. And what is very interesting is the evolution of this common agricultural policy. So fundamentally, we have had 3 phases in the common agricultural policy. One phase until 1994, where farmers were mainly supported through high prices granted by the EU. Second phase after 1994, where progressively this support was through decoupled income support, and in new EU countries, mainly payment by cultivated hectare, but without not too tough conditionalities, at least at the beginning. And now we will have still this support, decoupled income support, but with a very, very strong role of positive green environmental externalities generated by farmers. Farmers will be more and more paid against delivery of positive externalities for society as a whole. So it includes mitigation and adaptation to climate change, produce more and better with less pesticide and mineral fertilizers, protection of public goods like the biodiversity, which, as pointed out by Tanguy, is exceptional in Georgia, land, water, and also better management of climate and other risks through insurance systems, which is becoming more and more a key element of EU support. Next, please. What is of key interest is that we know obviously the challenge linked to climate change. We pay for them every day. But in parallel with these challenges, we are experiencing a new agrarian revolution, similar to the one we had with, in terms of scope, the one we had with Green Revolution decades ago, or the agrarian revolution of the 19th century. So this revolution combines smart digital agriculture, new agronomic practices, in particular in conservation, agriculture, and organic farming, which has been a living academy for rediscovering agronomy and a reduction. This will allow the possibility to produce still quite a lot without such a dependence on chemical fertilizers and pesticides. And finally, but this is also very key importance in the EU Green Deal, we have now more and more shorter organization of value chains from the field to the workforce with very high level of traceability and identity of products. Now, despite very solid support from the state and donors since the beginning of the last decade, the productivity of Georgian agriculture remains usually awfully low. And one of the key bottlenecks is the lack of qualified staff. Knowing that one of the key problem of Georgian agriculture is the lack of young farmers, which is even worse than what we have in the EU. So digital agriculture can also be a way not only to improve the technologies, but to improve the transfer of knowledge of these technologies to a wide array of farmers with limited supporting staff in terms of extension. Next, please. So first component of FinExCoop, smart and green finance. Next. As we can see here on the graphs on loans to legal entities in agriculture, unfortunately, we do not have statistics in Georgia on the total loans to agriculture, but this gives already an idea of what has been going on. Since the launching of the supporting programs of MEPA at the beginning of the last decade, there has been very strong increase in credit to agriculture. Even though Georgian farmers still consider access to credit as a major bottleneck, according to most recent surveys, the ratio credit to agriculture, GDP in agriculture, if we try to estimate this credit to agriculture given also to non-legal entity, this ratio is now equivalent to that of Central European EU countries, mainly because the Georgian banking sector is much more developed than any other banking sector in the regions. And banks and MFIs have robust assessment of client risk methodologies and have been building for years portfolios which are quite sound. Next. Contrary to credit, which has developed very strongly, agriculture insurance and in general insurance has not really taken off, despite MEPA subsidies, which have recently increased from 50% to 70% of premiums. So this is a big question, but we see now positive factors, and among the positive factors is the fact that MEPA is now also providing interest rate subsidies for seasonal crop finance, for which we need much more to rely on insurance than for instance, the financing of a tractor. So we expect banks willing to take advantage of these subsidies to increase their portfolios in seasonal finance to be more proactive in selling in parallel the insurance policies that their subsidiaries can provide. But in any case, we need also to switch from a traditional old-style approach of agricultural insurance based on evaluators of risk when risk occurs to future types of insurance which are parametric and index-based in essence. It will reduce transaction cost, it will reduce management risk and uncertainty, both for the providers of insurance and for the buyers of insurance policy, and it will reduce moral hazards. And for that reason, it will greatly facilitate the reinsurance of policies abroad. And this is of critical importance if we want the sector to take off. Next. FinExCoop, second part of the acronym X for extension, smart and green. In the EU Green Deal, there should be a reduction by 50% in the consumption of pesticide by 2030. And you see that in Georgia, which was not using pesticides virtually two decades ago, there has been, during the last decade, a very strong increase in their use, and often a very inaccurate increase in their use. In the last 2 years, we have seen a stabilization, but it was partly linked to the disruption of supply chains for pesticides linked to COVID, and it remains to be seen whether it will be long-lasting. In any case, there is a need to change pattern and gear. Next. In parallel, so much more consumption of pesticides, but still very, very low yields. This is the yields, these are the comparative yields of maize in 2021, where we see that Georgia had 3 tons of maize per hectare, compared with nearly 9 tons, for instance, for Turkey nearby. In 2022, it was even worse with 2.1 tons of maize per hectare. So maize is the biggest crop by acreage in Georgia, but for nearly all crops and animal production, we have huge gaps in yield, which give also the idea that the potential for increase is just considerable if we use the right technologies. In FinExCoop, we have, for instance, achieved yields of maize in some pilots over 15 tons per hectare. Next. You have the same for livestock. Livestock is ruminants are the major elements for greenhouse gas emission. 14% of total greenhouse gas emissions of Georgia are linked to livestock, and only 16% to agriculture. So livestock is the key source of greenhouse gas emission. And livestock accounts for nearly, cows account for nearly 1/3 of total agricultural output. So it is a very, very important economic and social value chain. And here you see that the emission intensity kilogram of CO2 equivalent of per raw milk liter of cattle is among the highest because productivity is very, very low. Next. What we did in this field through our pilots, where we implemented experimental research, coaching of farmers, we have allowed these farmers to produce much more and much better with much less. Especially in 2 of our strategic value chain, beef and dairy and intensive orchards. We have also introduced critically important new methodologies such as permanent covers of soils and circular economy. Here you see in this photo, it has been one of our pilot of catch crops in a place where we had very high yields of maize of 15 tons per hectare. So after maize was harvested in October until the time when it was planted again in May, we introduced this catch crop, which generated 4 tons of dry matter per hectare. So it was very useful for cattle, but it was a mixture of leguminous and other types of other types of crops, and it had also very very positive impacts against wind erosion and in rebuilding green mass in the south. So this is typically what we did, and it was systematic. Circular economy, we use many byproducts of processing, including introduction of leftover from cha-cha in feed ration, leftover from beer, leftover from licorice, leftover for processing of pulp. So very much produce much more with much less, and obviously with big profit for farmers. Next. Last time of the equation, last element of our own equation, COP for cooperation. Next, please. Well, let us be clear, cooperative development in Georgia, but also in other countries. We are planning to make a study tour now to Lithuania, and we see that in this country, which is now 20 years in the EU, the cooperative movement has not developed yet as an alternative economic system to traditional form of corporate management. So the system of cooperation in post-Soviet or transition countries has not developed as it could have done, mainly because it was much too much top-down. So states were providing subsidies and were expecting that cooperation would develop like mushrooms after rain. It doesn't work this way. So today we have some kind of lassitude of vis-a-vis cooperation, while there is concretely, it will be very difficult to modernize family agriculture without active forms of cooperation. So in this field, we have been very strongly advocating with MEPA, with Parliament, with DFA and other farmers and development organizations for a new strategy of promotion of cooperative, which should first build on the promotion of grassroots cooperative leaders, mainly through the capacity to send young Georgian potential leaders to cooperative in Western Europe, which is now very much our marque de fabrique. Next. So among the tools we have been using in this field is the training by working of this new generation of young Georgian professionals in cooperative, like this coopérative laitière des Alpes du Sud we have in the mountains of southern France. And this idea is we are pushing it more and more because also it is part of the 7 principles of cooperative to have a concern for community. And so basically cooperatives are much more advanced in the protection of environmental elements in the work of their members of themselves than traditional corporate companies involved in agribusiness. So we really believe in this model where cooperative will be intertwined with green, smart agriculture within the framework of the EU Green Deal. I think it is all. Thanks a lot for your participation.
Thank you very much, Christophe. I'd like to thank all panelists for this very interesting discussion. It's very obvious that green transition is very critical for Georgia, as it is for the whole globe for a sustainable future, but it also encompasses significant opportunities for Georgian agriculture from many aspects, and this is what we heard in today's discussions. I think it's important to see also that Georgia is taking this step towards a greener agricultural development agenda with immense support from the EU, from AFD, along with other international donors and actors of international community, which is very important. So I would like to thank you very much for your participation and contribution. Lola, I think it's back to you.
Yeah, Thank you very much, Cansu. So it was a very interesting discussion on the first panel. So I thank you, Cansu, for moderating this panel. And I also thank all the speakers who were contributing to this, particularly the First Deputy Minister, Ms. Nino Tandilashvili. I also would like to thank Dr. Ketevan Kuchishvili for her speech, and Tanguy, and obviously Christophe. I would like to come back. I would like to recoup myself. So for the next panel, we have a very interesting panel, and I would like to remind all the speakers who will be coming on the screen, please put up your background. We have been working very thoroughly to make sure that you have this beautiful background. Please put that one on. And we are also at the same time providing translation, simultaneous translation. So that can be done through you can activate it through the globus sign that is on your Zoom. So you can turn this one on, because we have some speakers who will be speaking Georgian on this panel. And I would like to also bring your attention for the upcoming session for the time management. So we have another 1 hour of discussion for the second panel. The second panel is very interesting. Why? Because we have demonstration of the pilot technologies that are active in Georgia. And I would like to also remind the speakers, we will be showing your PowerPoint presentations online, and you can let us know for moving the slides from backwards and forward. You can ask us. Our technical team will support. Without further ado, I would like to introduce moderator of the second working group, Mr. Vano Grigoshvili. He is chairman of the RDFG, and I would like to also give the floor to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lola. Actually, you already presented some rules, so you made my life easier. And I'm greeting all participants. As Lola mentioned, I'm Vano Grigolashvili, head of RDFG, Rural Development Association for Future Georgia. Indeed, we'll have very interesting speakers. Actually, the first speaker who is presenting quite interesting presentation is Mr. Aftandil Kasradze, chairman of Georgia's Innovation Technology Agency. From our experience, I can say that we had great collaboration, especially before COVID, and hope we'll rebuild these approaches. And he'll present quite interesting let's say, overview of his agency, where they're promoting innovative startups in Georgia with very special focus on youth, by the way. So floor is yours, Mr. Aftandil, and hope we'll have quite interesting presentation.
First of all, hello everyone. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for the kind invitation, and I'm happy to provide a little bit overview about from the government side how we are supporting the development of the innovation ecosystem in the country, especially when we're talking about the agriculture. You know that a lot of the Georgians are employed currently in the agricultural sector, and in order to increase our productivity, it's very much important to develop innovation in the country on that regard. One of the main things that I would like to underline in the beginning is that we as the agency, we are not involved in the technology adoption process from other countries. So we don't support, for example, Georgian farmers or others to purchase the already created technology outside of country and bring it here, which is also very important, that it definitely supports the development, like to increase the productivity and efficiency of their businesses. Because we have the another agencies and another governmental organization who are supporting this kind of initiatives. From our side, what we're trying to support here in Georgia is to create technologies here, some know-hows that can support all sectors horizontally, including the agricultural sector. So this is just a little bit remark in the beginning. Could you move to the next slide? So this is a little bit overview of how we are supporting the innovation ecosystem in the country. One of the main, and I would say the start of the kind of support program is to develop the innovation community in the country, because it does not matter whether you build tech park or have a grant program or anything at all, if you don't have the community with whom you are working, the ones who are actually creating the innovative products and etc. And we are also creating now equity programs, supporting this the venture funds and etc. We are also supporting the IT skills development in the country. And tech transfer is one of the big areas. I will not speak too much on that slide because we will be separately saying how we are doing each of the aspects. So next slide. Innovation community development is, I would say that our busiest tasks for our team, because we are on this regard, we're reaching lots of people. So we are supporting the program in even to the people who does not have innovation idea, but we are working with them in order to help them to think innovatively, maybe come up with innovative solutions on the current problems that in the business sector is, and how they can go through the process. So we are investing in pre-acceleration incubators. We are also investing in and supporting in angel investment funds. We are also financing a lot of community events in order to have newcomers in the community, and we are also investing in lots in hackathons, creatons, ideathons, technology weeks, not only in Tbilisi but outside of the Tbilisi as well. Also innovative boot camps for different category of people, starting with the school pupil, continued with students, but also some professionals as well. So we are quite heavily investing on that regard. Next slide. We are also creating the technology parks around the country. So the technology park is a place where people who have innovative minds can go there and get advice, get mentorship, get coaching, receive trainings on certain aspects. There's also laboratory for 3D prototyping and etc. So it's kind of combination of the services for the innovative minded people to get there, and there is the experts who will be supporting there. Right now we have already 8 tech parks in the country, the white ones. It's already opened. In Senaki we will be opening in 1 month, and in Kutaisi we will be opening early next year. And in Akhaltsikhe is on the planning stage right now. So the current date is unknown at that matter. Next slide. And of course, I mean, when you have a community and when you have places where they can gather and work, etc., they still need access to finance. This is very important. And we have several granting programs. The ones that you see in the slides is only for the regions in Georgia. So Tbilisi participants cannot apply to that grant program, cannot participate in this grant program. So we did it deliberately, because when we had the small granting program, usually it was Tbilisi who was participating and winning in this. But we would like to further support the regions, people who live in the regions, in order to kind of first teach them how to come up with innovative ideas, because before we are announcing calls in each region, we are actually conducting the pre-accelerator program in order to support the local community to, when they come up ideas, how to write business plan, how to think on business model, how to think about the customer acquisition strategy, product development, and etc. Like all the relevant tools in order them to be prepared for the competition. And then in each region, for example, when the call is in Achara, Gori, and Imereti, which was the first call, in Achara, population are competing against only Achara population, Guria only against Guria. So there is each separate grant competition for each region in order to distribute our resources, financial and human and intellectual resources, also to support them in each regions. And we already conducted first 2 calls already in Achara Guria Emirati, Rachalechkomi Samegralo Svaneti, and Abkhazia, and we will have a third call right now in Subsahara Hechida Kartunim Svetemtianeti, and 4th call at the end of the year. So every year we will continue this program in order to support the regional population who comes with innovative ideas. Next slide. So I would say that our flagship grant program is 150,000 lari grant program, which is up to $60,000 US. It depends on the currency exchange rate, and we are having twice a year this call, and we are for each call we are financing 20 new startups, 150,000 lari each, as a grant, non-equity and non-returnable money. So basically, this is a gift for the startups who are like say creating the innovative solution. And one of the major requirements that we have in the granting competition or in all our kind of ecosystem support schemes, that the innovative idea should be globally scalable. It should have the global scalable potential. So that's why, I mean, we have the quite a sophisticated like the evaluation process. So first we are asking the business ideas calls, and from business ideas we usually receive 500 applications. From 500 applications, we are shortlisting 150 applicants who we are like the we are asking them to then provide us business plans on that innovative business ideas, and then we are evaluating business plans through international accelerator. So we hired US accelerator, US Market Access Center from Silicon Valley, and they are reviewing all applications. So we are receiving application in English because, as I mentioned, we are looking at the globally scalable innovative ideas, and reviewers are international. And from the 150 applicants, the US accelerator selects top 50 applicants who will do the final pitching session before venture investors. And we have a real venture investors coming from Silicon Valley, from Europe, coming here in Georgia, and they are meeting top 50 finalists. And they are deciding from 50 finalists which 20 is getting the governmental money. But we have a very high-level panel of the investment committee. For example, we have Vice President of the Oracle Corporation from San Francisco coming here, CEO of the Catapult Venture, CEO of the Garage Technology, Pegasus Venture, and etc. Like big names of the like successful VC farm heads are coming in Georgia, and they are helping government to select the ones. Not only helping, but actually they are making decisions. So the decision-making process is 100% outsourced from the government, and in no ways any my staff is involved in the decision-making. My staff does not have even access to the application. So we have very transparent process and impartial process in order to select the winners. And we already have like the more than 200 startups financed, and which employed more than already more than 2,000 people. Next slide. So one of the also very important programs that we started is that to host international accelerator program here in Georgia. So we were very lucky. We had a huge competition when we started this program. A lot of top-tier accelerator companies from US and from Europe participated in our tender, including 500, Techstar, Plug and Play, Era, and others. And finally 500 startup won in our tender, and they started the very important international accelerator program. And now the international accelerator program support Georgian startups to scale their product globally. So basically it's not for early stage startups, it's for the startups who already have attraction and want to go to the international market, raise more investment, and etc. So this international accelerator are helping them in this regard. And this is also regional. So it is happening in Tbilisi, but the application is open for the regional countries. And for example, like last pages, there was 12 startups, and only 2 of them was from Georgia. 2 of them was from Kazakhstan, 2 from Uzbekistan, 1 from Kyrgyzstan, 3 from Azerbaijan, 2 from Armenia, several from UK and US. But when startups are participating in our batches, US startups and UK startups is just startups who are registered in those countries, but usually founders are from these regional countries. So we have strictly regional coverage. So we are supporting the founders from this region in order to scale their product in global market. Next slide, please. And very important milestones that already we achieved in our country is to create the first private venture fund in Georgia. So the 500 startup who entered the Georgian market as the accelerator strictly, they express their interest to move it to the next stage and create the the venture fund, private venture fund, in order to support the regional startups from Georgia. We also participate there as a limited partner and as a regular limited partner. So governmental participation there is actually the same level participation as the private sector. We share all risks and we share all the profits after the fund will be finished. But our participation is no more than 25% of the whole fund, and others 75% they raised from the private sector here in Georgia, and also from the IFC as well. So this is very good achievement that 500 venture fund already created, and they also raised some money from the fund to fund from Kazakhstan as well. Next slide, please. And this is the equity financing program that we will be starting very soon, from the early next years, which will further support of the private investment in Georgian startups by Georgian investors. We will be investing additional 20% in each angel syndicates. We will be also having the direct equity investment programs. There we will follow all other private investors who will be investing in Georgian startups, and also we will be investing directly in venture studios and incubators through different programs. Next slide.
You can see the time also. Thank you.
Yes. So I will not then just talk about too much about the Do IT in Georgia. So this is training program for the IT specialists, which is also very important for our country, but maybe not relevant to today's topic. So next slide. So the tech transfer program is very important for the subjects that we are talking. All the other programs that I was mentioning, it was more about the startups, and most of the startups, it's IT-based startups. Here in the tech transfer office, we are dealing with scientific technology. So we have 2 different kinds of methods. One is technology push method, where we are going in the research institutions and universities, and we are analyzing the technology readiness level from the technology that they created or they claim that they created. And then we will do detailed assessment and evaluation and market studies, and we invest those technology to be commercialized, to be licensed in the market in order to have the economic value of the technologies that is created in Georgia. And another different method is a market pool method. Then from the market pool method, we don't start from the university or research institution. We start from the business, and we are also quite significantly right now working in the big players in the agricultural sector in order to analyze their needs. And then together with those private sector representatives, we will be funding 50-50% to research to do R&D for those objectives that the business industry have in agriculture and in other, also in mining industry and in brewing and different industries that we are working on that regard. Next slide, please. So this is just to demonstrate that we are in this still very early stage of the development right now, and we will eventually see the hyper growth more from Georgian startups, and I hope that we will have the unicorns very soon. Next slide. So this is just about the information for the successes. We already make from the government directly. This is the only direct investment that we gave cash to the startup, $12 million US. And the success is very important that we already financed more than 200 startups, and 35 of them already raised additional private investment after they received the money from the government. So they raised more than $100 million US as a private investment, and more than $40 million US already revenue generated by the startups who already started to sell their products. And I think that's all from my side. Thank you very much, and I will be happy to answer the question later on. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Artandil. As we mentioned, I mean, we are limited in times for second plenary session. We have now left 45 minutes, so I ask our next panelists to consider some around 8 minutes for presentation. Because we are really limited with time, that's why the question and answers not, let's say, considered during these sessions, and we'll be happy to answer to your questions through email. Now I'd like to invite next panelist, Mr. Zviad Bobukhashvili, Head of Food Crop Research Department from Scientific Research Institute. He'll present some applicable tools for fruit and grape farmers. So, Mr. Zviad, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thanks the organizers for this opportunity to make this presentation. Special thanks for the Christoph for the making some type of the moderation on this process regarding of the smart agriculture on the Georgia, and thanks to audience for finding time for listen. So we will be right now talk about of the agrometeo stations and how agrometeo stations can be used as the applicable tools for the fruit and the grape farmers. Next slide, please. So just to a short story regarding of the agri-meteo stations. So it's meteo station systems in the country was starting since of the 20th century beginning, but targeted agri-meteo stations history is quite short one. So according of our information, first meteo station is appearing in the country for 21 centuries since of the 2007, but practical uses, it was starting since 2009, 2010, when company Agrospero was brought meteo station of the Austrian company of the Pesos. So it was installed for this moment in the two places, in the Muhrani and Jigaura, in our scientific research center. And but after since of the 2012, a number of the agrometeo station was brought by various type of the donor organization, by USAID, UNFAO, UNDP, etc. And actually for the country, it's operated more than 28 private meteo stations with various service providers. However, actually it's starting some new projects under of the umbrella UNDP for the fastering process of the uses agro-meteo station. This is a new project which will be as well adding new decision-making systems for the local farmers, adding for sure additional meteo stations in the two targeted pilot regions like Shida-Katli and Kakheti. Next slide, please. So, Scientific Research Center of the Agriculture, this is a under umbrella of the Ministry of Environment and Agriculture. This is a leading organization for this moment on the fruit and the grapevine research in the Georgia. We have like main our experimental plot in the village Jigaura, total 86 hectares. We have labs, fruit labs, in vitro labs, greenhouses, as well one of the richest germplasm of the grapes and the fruits. We totally has more than 1,600 accessions of various types of the cultivars, varieties in the forms. Next slide, please. So this is just to overview, quick view, where we are located, what we have in our orchards, and what type of the research we had in our places. Next slide, please. We should know that for this moment, agro-meteo station has various type of the platforms. So there is a number of the platforms. Basically, it's spread following type of the agro-meteo stations under of the platform of the field climate. This is a Austrian pestle instrumentals. We have some of the weather stations under of the Davis weather station. We have Oregon scientific weather stations. Some of the models which is including in existing meteo stations like RimPro, other platforms which is coming from various providers of the hardware like Italy, Turkey, and France. Next slide, please. So we are talking about regarding of the precision agriculture. We are considering that agri-meteo stations is like a very important part of this direction, especially for the fruit and the grape production. And we're thinking that this is like one of the first direction and the way to bringing precision agricultural approaches for the Georgian local farmers. Next slide, please. So there will be another presentations regarding of the some of the details hardware of the agri-meteo station. So just to make main differences between regular meteo station and the agri-meteo station, because several times we have this type of the questions: what is the real differentiations of this? So basically, one of the important part which is differs from regular meteo station. This is a little bit short version. And they has additional leaf witness sensors, and as well this type of the agri-meteo station has a possibility to including additional type of the hardware for monitoring insects, some of the web camera, etc. So this is like main differentiation between of the agri-meteo station and the regular meteo station, which is making much more full analysis. Next slide, please. So what is like positive sides of the agri-meteo station? How we can using these approaches for the farmers? So they are giving some of the interesting type of the approaches, adjusting pesticide application times to giving a right period for the applications, as well giving period applications between of the applications. We can control soil moisture with soil sensors. Can be incorporated inside the meteo forecast. It's very important that we had, especially regarding the variety, some of the discussion regarding of the chilling units. So meteo station can be calculated chilling units as well degree days for the understanding how much heating is collected during of the season. Things can be make alarm frost. We had in the like recent innovations that can be incorporated with satellite views and satellite imageries, and can be incorporated with the scouting for the pests on the digital. Next slide, please. But we should know that not only like positive sides we have in the agri-meteostation, just to I putting in my slides some of the controversial things which exist for our experience in the Georgia. And I just like to remind very interesting regarding of this agri-meteostation, the famous writer of the Ilya Chavchavadze's like public person. He had a very interesting experience in the beginning of the 20th century. He is bringing some of the equipment from the abroad, like artificial incubators for the farmers, like crushing for the grape crushing equipment for the farmers, and always felt because people who was addressed all these equipments, they did not use it properly. And it was some of the problems, and we should know that probably we have this type of the evidences in our country. So we have like common way that easy buy different difficult use tendencies. So people is or the farmers they has meteostations, but they did not using. It's very important that sometimes meteostations are located not in the proper way. Sometimes they are putting directly in the vineyards or upper side of the fruit orchards, which is not accurate, because when we are applying some of the spraying machines, other kind of these things, they are not reflecting accordingly and accurately, and needs training. So this is sources, this is a tools, but without of the person who knows how to use this meteostation, it's almost useless. So this needs training, and it was already mentioned in today organizers and the presentation that this is a very important part. And I should be mentioning as another type of this thing. So without of the subscription, for instance, for the pests and the insects modeling, it becomes almost useless, because it's just to making giving and bringing some of the information or the data, but using in the practical ways it's not so easy. So it means that qualifying users, so we should know that this is an important part of these agri-meteostations. Otherwise, so I have not used problems will be appeared quite quickly in our situation. Next slide, please. So we have some of the developments in agri-meteostations, very interesting type of the new innovation for the, including some sensors for the crop view camera, for instance, which giving for us possibility to make measuring fruit diameter tools or the dynamics of the fruit growth. Next slide, please. So how is working? So almost all these platforms has internet access, so you can or applications for sure. I just to giving some of the examples of this type of the things, so we can see that we have username, passwords, regular things. Next slide, please. In under of the subscription, this meteostation giving us two possibility to see where, for instance, apple scab conidia is developing. So you can look at on the pictures and the peaks, and you can see where is the most difficult period for the damage of the plants, or when you will make decision to apply proper fungicides. Next slide, please. We have some type of the practical use strategy. I will be not making some of the details how to interpret all these things, because I mentioned that this is important things that person who are using this meteostation should be know how to interpret all these things. Next slide, please. So we can monitor by meteostation not only diseases, but as well, for instance, insects, because each insect has development stages which developing depending of the specific type of the models, which is based on the temperature, humidity, etc. So you can see where is the catching, for instance, codling moths, and when you should be apply proper insecticides for these purposes, so you can reducing amount of the application on these things. Next slide, please. We have same methods for the grape farmers. For instance, you can see grape downy mildew development stages. So we can see that where is the important period for the application, not like apply anytime on the basis of the date things. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is in this slide I show you our last works regarding of the multispectral analysis, which is can be incorporated in the meteor stations. So we can use various type of the satellite imagery by various type of the multispectral analysis. For instance, NDMI. You can see on the plots where is the requirements of the watering or where we have excess of the waters. Next slide, please. So this is a NDVI LAA sensors, and you can see what is like plots is and where we have problematic places. Next slide, please. There is another quite interesting type of the approaches for the small farmers, because always they have this question that they could not able to afford so expensive type of the hardware like regular meteor stations. It can be used virtual meteor stations. For sure, it's not like accurate like hardware based meteor stations, but this is a good sources for them to enter into precision agriculture with a limited maintenance cost. Next slide, please. Actually, Scientific Research Center has plans regarding of the practical use of the meteor stations. We have some of the trials on this. So regarding of the validating satellite imagery for the NDVI multispectral analysis for the fruit orchards and the wine grapes, as well incorporation regarding on the fruit dendrometer. And it's like future, which actually we are think this is a nutrition management validating all these approaches, which right now is proposing by meteor station platform providers. Next slide, please. So this is like shortly, which I try to reflect our point of view and use this of the agri-meteor station approaches as a part of the precision agriculture for Georgia. For sure, we know that it needs some of the improvements. This is a like progressive direction for this moment, but it's important that we should be step by step starting this direction. So thank you for listening me. Thank you for organizers again for this possibility.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zviad. Let me kindly ask the next speakers just keep eye on the timing because we have 4 more presenters and just 30 minutes left. So let me invite Mr. Irakli Eradze, co-founder and technical director of SST.
მოგესალმებით, მადლობა ამ შესაძლებლობისთვის.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you to the organizers. Thank you to the audience. I represent the company SST. I'm its technical director and co-founder. Next slide, please. So very briefly, I would like to share some information about us. We are a part of CVIG, who was working in agriculture of Georgia and was involved in implementation and promotion of agro-meteorological stations. And our second founder is a big extension company, Agro Solutions. So these 2 companies merged and offer Georgian market technical part of meteorological stations, as well as interpretation and use, agronomic use of the information and extension. So during extension, we have to mention that it is a sharing of knowledge for 1 year, and then our users can independently run and use those meteorological stations, which is very important for our country in terms of sharing of knowledge. So today, I am going to talk about technical issues. Next slide, please.
Thank you.
So sensor system solutions. This is not only meteo station, there are other sensors. So it is mainly meteo stations that and it uses different sensors. It allows for water management, accordingly irrigation management control, also pest, insect monitoring, also using other tools, and have very exact weather projection and plan accordingly various agricultural manipulations.
Can you show up next slide, please?
Შემდეგი slide. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. So I will explain you how it works. As I have mentioned, this is a hardware. Information is collected and then sent to the cloud and then to the gadget of the users. In the right-hand side, you see monitoring nodes, and those are small devices connected to soil monitoring. All sensors are there. So they are collecting information from those sensors, sending to gateway. Gateway collects information from meteorological station, sends it to the cloud, and then to the user. So this is one principle of work. Second principle of work is that all small nodes have its own independent SIM cards connected to suppliers' internet, and is directly sent to cloud and then to the customer. Next slide, please. So these are the two main principles based on which we work. We have to mention that all meteo stations are independent. They do not need local electricity supply. They have solar batteries, their own solar batteries, and they are absolutely independent devices. So mainly in agriculture today, agrometeorological stations are the most popular. Then so-called irrigation and monitoring nodes. Those are soil humidity measuring node, so-called iScouts. This is for farmers to receive several times a day a photo picture of insects, and not only pictures, it also has a high resolution camera, helps to identify a specific pest, sends this information to the farmer, and also analyzes quantitative data so that farmer could know how big the problem is, and if there is a critical mass of a specific pest, and he needs to do pest management timely. So crop view, high resolution cameras to monitor the growth process, to visualize the growth process of a plant. In addition, it has a zoom function. It is possible for an agronomist to look into some crop diseases remotely and discover it remotely. And there is also a drop site. It helps farmer to calibrate very strictly the equipment for dispersal of medication and to use medication in the optimum way. Next slide, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
ძირითადად მეტეოსადგური
So
აგროვებს ყველა
mainly
ინფორმაციას,
meteo
რასაც
station
ყველა
collects
ჩვეულებრივი
all the
მართვა
information that
მეტეოსადგური უბრალოდ
any
წარმატებით
other meteo station
გამომდინარეობს,
would
რომ მას
collect, but in
აგრეთვე
addition,
მოიცავს აგრონომის
as
დანიშნულება.
those meteo stations have
იცის
agronomist
როგორც
purpose,
chilling
they
units,
calculate
ასევე მას
so-called
შეუძლია
chilling
delta
events.
T-ს
Also,
გამოტოვება.
they can calculate delta
გარდა
T
მე
point,
ხაზს უსვამ იმ
and
მონაცემებს, რომელიც
I
აგრონომიულად
am talking
საინტერესოა. როგორც
about
ევაპოტრანსპორტაციას,
data interesting
რასაც
for
ბევრი
agronomists. It measures
ფერმერი იყენებს
evapotranspiration that
ირიგაციის
many
მეთოდის
farmers use
მიმართულებით და
for
ყველა
planning
დანარჩენი
irrigation and
მონაცემს
all
მეტეოროლოგიის
other
ნალექის
meteorological
ტემპერატურის
data,
ხარის სიჩქარით და
ordinary data like air temperature,
რაც
humidity,
ეხება
wind speed, direction that agronomist is interested in. Online application in agronomist's telephone or any other gadget about meteorological events and also about agronomist events that is calculated by different sensors and sent to the agronomist's devices. Sorry. Thank you. Next slide, please.
Thank you. ამინდის პროგნოზი
Thank you. Weather forecast. So I won't go deeply into the topic, but I must mention the following, that meteo stations, as they are of the local purpose, they have very high precision of weather focus for the local orchard. So farmer does not depend on mobile applications or meteo stations that are located 100 kilometers away. Next slide, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. So very briefly, as we are limited in time, I talk about irrigation monitoring, soil monitoring. We have three types of sensors in this case. The two of them, the Centec and PI54D, they measure humidity in soil, so-called water content. So they measure water content in the soil and inform the customer about the percentage of water content. Then we have tensiometers. Tensiometers are quite well-known and used sensors in Georgia. They measure accessible humidity and energy that a plant has to spend to absorb this energy. And the main purpose of using those sensors is that farmers can, with high precision, monitor irrigation process and supply as much water as necessary, not more, not less. Next slide, please.
Can you jump to next slide, please? Thank you.
Thank you. So I've mentioned about iScout, so I won't stop here. So this is just for visualization. The zooming possibilities, identification, counting, and analysis, and informing farmer about the pests. Next slide, please. So IPM, I'll tell you about IPM because speaker before me, Mr. Zviat, spoke about it. Meteo stations give us a possibility to use IPM for management, and users, based on this information, can act and can make informed decisions with regards to specific diseases, not all diseases, and to plan timely interventions. What do we need to take into account? That this module, if used successfully, totally substitutes necessity for just regular medical processing. So you don't use chemical application unless it is necessary. Next slide, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. So crop view, I've described the crop view. That's why I won't focus on details. I will mention only one thing, that as Mr. Tamas spoke, crop view in case of apple orchard can measure the size of the fruit and actually to supply volume information to the farmer. So what is the harvest the farmer can expect? Next slide.
Next slide, please.
Next slide, please. So drop site, I've mentioned it already, but I will repeat very briefly that this device gives a farmer an opportunity to calibrate the speed and the volume of supply of medication to the plant to make sure that it is properly distributed over the leaf of the plant. Next slide, please. So I would like to say a few words here. So we have several so-called working tools. One interesting is planning of spraying. The platform gives you a several day, hourly forecast and gives you advice on desirable hour of spraying, because metadata is analyzed like temperature, air humidity, delta T. So everything that actually it has to be considered to make sure that the plant absorbs the medication. So this tool is used in Georgia, in Georgian reality, by the way, and we have trained our users and they use it.
I think it will be the last
Next
one.
slide, please. And I think it's my last slide.
Yes.
Voila. Thank you for your attention. And thank you to the organizers for the great opportunity to speak before you. Thank you very much, Mr. Irakli.
Quite interesting information. Now I'd like once again to remind about the timing and invite Mr. David Malazonia, Director of ProAgro, to present challenges and applied technologies in the field.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for organizers for this interesting symposium conference. And please, presentation. So about company ProAgro. ProAgro is a company which is involved in the Georgian irrigation and fertigation and installation of different type of projects. We are installing drip irrigation and pivot irrigation, also dealer of one of the biggest European company in precise agriculture, Progress from Spain. So let me start from slide number 5. Please, slide number 5. Yeah. Let me present the architecture of smart agriculture technologies. Previous our presentators are speaking too much about climate station, but precise agriculture technologies architecture contains main different other parameters, different other tools. The main tool is controller, so-called big or not so big computer, which is controlling all these processes. One of its elements is a climate station, weather station, which previous people talk about it. It's giving us the system of pest management and different other advantages to farmers. Next thing, which can provide a controller, which is in the center of the smart agriculture technology, is getting information for different type sensors. As mentioned above, the sensors are different types. Some sensors are for soil. The soil sensor is measuring the soil water content, electroconductivity. There are new sensors which are measuring the nutrition in soil, temperature of soil, which is important for agronomists, etc. There are some sensors who are measuring air, temperature, air humidity. This is so-called sensor of weather station. And there are some sensors which is connected with plant for dendrometers, fruit dendrometers, and different other sensors with measuring the sap motion in plants. All this information collected with a controller, and on the basis of this data, the manager or agronomist getting the information or deciding about decision how to manage his farm. On the same time, this system is transferring information, transferring the data to the from controller to the field, to the different valves, different hydraulic units like pump, valve, and different other things, which is actually managing the irrigation or fertigation system. This controller also can manage the fertigation system, one of the important tools of precise agriculture. So what is the difference? In difference with previous attitude, what you are getting information from sensors and the manager deciding about application. So this technology is providing management of agriculture farm on the basis of getting information from weather station for different sensor and so on. So it is a full system which can allow the farmer on the basis of sensor information, including the weather sensor information, manage his farm. And it can be done automatically. It's so-called conditional irrigation or conditional fertigation. When the central controller receiving the information from sensor, which defines some condition. For example, there is the soil became wet, please start irrigation. So it's not needed to manually start irrigation. Automatically it can be started. In any case, this option also considered in this type of technologies. Controller collecting the information from the sensors in the field with help of radio connection. You can see the radio elements, so-called radio telemetric units, which collecting all this information from sensors to the controller, and on the same time is delivering the signals from controllers to the valves in the field. On the same time, the controller is transferring this information to the cloud or to the computer, directly to the computer, or to the smartphone. So it's this connection can be done with GSM contact, with SIM card in controller. What is important? It is only one SIM card is used in such case. You are collecting the system is collecting information for many different sensors and transferring to the cloud website or computer with only one SIM card, which is very convenient because when you're transferring information from different sensors, different weather station, you should have different SIM cards and different connections and different subscription at the same time, which is costly. And on the same time, with this system, you have all information in one window, in one website. It's very convenient. So let's go to the next slide. On the side, this technology providing information to the digital farming platforms. You know, the digital farming platforms is developing too much in recent years, but most of platforms are using manual filling of information. But there is starting some digital farming platform, which are integrating the information from sensors and from controllers, and you can fill your data of information with help of data coming from sensors, including, for example, flow meter of fertilizer or flow meter of water, and so on, so on. This is very useful because you know, digital farming is one of the well-developing farming management technology in the last year. So let's go to the slide number 2, please. Number 2. So what advantages giving the smart agriculture and digital farming? It is improving management of farming. Irrigation and fertigation system automated, and it can be done by remotely. You can manage system from any place of world with help of GSM connection. Pest forecast and agronomic decision support. It's things which already Sviat and different other people talk about it. Plant nutrition control. It is important thing which is now developing. This is almost recent developments with help of some new sensors and some other tools to developing to manage the plant and control the plant nutrition. So improving agronomy and digital farming by posting sensors to the data to sensors data to automatically, which you talked about digital farming just a few minutes ago. And it's important tool for execution of farm management because everything, the fertigation and the irrigation it's written and it's in history, and it's easy to manage to control the operations. It's done. Also, the sensor controlling the fertigation. If sensor show the electroconductivity increase, it means what you have applied some amount of fertilizer, so you can make some decision or some conclusion how much fertilizer you already apply. So it's increasing the control of execution of farm management. So please, next slide. It's giving economy to the farmers. With help of this technology, you make economy or water, and there's all the power because water is supplied with electric power motors. Reducing fertilizer use. Yes, it is very important trend in this in recent year developing, but with help of nutri-sensors and different other technologies, you can manage the quantity of fertilizer to be used in different phenological stages of development of plant. So it's very important. At the same time, it's improving yes, improve the product quality, because in such case you are controlling the, for example, nitrogen apply the product, and you are improving on the same time nitrogen trace in the product. It reducing the product cost, therefore, because you are reducing the water, you are reducing the water and the electricity use, also reducing the fertilizer use, reducing the different labor cost and different management cost, reducing. And on the same time, you are increasing the farmer's income because the crop yield is growing and quality of product is improving. Please, next slide. It's also very much interesting issue and very much important in terms of Green Deal and perspective of Euro Union. Because reducing the nitrogen trace in fruits is technology, improving soil and microbiota, reducing the greenhouse gas emission, preserve groundwater pollution, and reducing the resource use like water, electricity, fertilizer, chemicals, and so on. This now slide number 7 probably. Yes. And what challenges we have in these technologies? First of all, this accuracy of some sensors. There are a lot of sensors in world, some of them very cheap, some of them quite expensive, but accuracy still need to be improved. Also, there is time to developing the artificial intelligence and big data technologies to be in this time to be developed. Some platforms and some equipments are not competitive with each other. I already mentioned about it. In such case, you have several platforms, several subscriptions, and so on. It is desirable, but unite this system, unification of this precise agriculture technology, one equipment in one platform. It will be easy in such case to operate it, and also will be cheaper. This next slide. So it needed farmers and also agronomists, information and education. Some agronomists are not interested to use these digital farming tools and continue their old technologies, practices. Investment cost is acceptable for medium and large scale farmers, and it's very easy to cover during 1 year because it's giving economy in fertilizers and different other income inputs economy. But maybe small farmers, it will be needed some subsidy. Okay, next. Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you very much, Mr. David. Once again, friends, let's say shorten the presentations. And my suggestion will be, if your next presentation contains some technical specifications which were already shared, I mean, we can skip these components if possible. Now I'd like to invite Alfia Kaumova, co-founder of Green Growth, with a presentation turning data into profit. Please, if Alfia hearing
Yes,
me?
I'm here.
Yeah. Floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good morning, dear ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me express my gratitude to organizer for having me today. My name is Alfia, and I'm CEO and co-founder of European agtech startup Green Growth. Next one, please. So our mission is to help farmers significantly increase the yield and at the same time significantly reduce chemical input by providing precise and affordable analytics. Next one. We support sustainable goals. We aim to help farmers decrease up to 30% of fertilizer inputs across at least 3 million hectares in the next 5 years, which is equals to almost 400 tons of carbon reduction yearly. Next, please. We also found out that 2 factors influence farmers in a bad way. On the one hand, we see that the prices for fertilizers and seeds increase from year to year. And on the other hand, we see that the prices for some cereals decreases from year to year. So this leads to the situation when farmer can be out of their business because their margin decreases from year to year. And one of the solution, as Christoph told in the first part of our presentation, of our event, to produce more with less. And our approach is to optimize as much as possible. So what actually do we do? Next slide, please. We have developed SaaS platform that in the real time demonstrate the actual distribution of yield across the field. On the slide, you can see the real map of our customer that shows red, yellow, and green zones, which equals to the low, medium, and high productivity zones. Next, please. The data we take directly from combined harvesters with the usage IoT devices that we produced, and right now we manufacture by ourselves. So our, I would say, magical sauce is that our solution is universal, it's scalable, it's easy to use, easy to calibrate, and easy to install. Next one, please. The most valuable in each data, I think that you all agree with me, it's profit that it brings to the customer. We've been working for the second harvesting season since now, and we saw that our customers save from 50 euros per hectare by putting different doses of fertilizers and seeds in this weak and strong part of the field. The second cost reduction statement is that they can significantly reduce cost for soil analysis because they can go to the exact weak spots of the field and investigates what's happening in these specific areas. And the last but not the least, every farmer every year does a lot of experiments on the fields with different fertilizers, with different seeds rates. So, and at the end of the season, farmer has to validate which of these experiments was successful. With using yield monitoring system, farmers know for sure which of them was successful and which of these input chemical inputs he has to apply on his specific fields. Next one, please. So the next slides will demonstrate the real cases with our customers. On this slide, you can see our Latvian customer. His name is Martins, and he has about 7 hectares of crops. So I would say he is a medium farmer. And the thing is that he knows his fields very well. So this farm came to him from his father, so he knows the shape of each of his fields very well. But the thing is that he understood that putting fertilizers and seeds in equally in every part of the field is not efficient anymore. So he tried to find how he can optimize his input strategy. This is how in 2022 he bought our yield monitoring system. We all together mapped his fields, and we found out which spots in his fields like decreases his revenue and decreases his efficiency actually. And as you can see on the picture 2023, we were able to exclude this weak part. We were able to increase his revenue and at the same time decrease his costs for fertilizers and seeds. The next slide, please. Well, less or more the same picture with our Spanish customer. He also quite advanced farmer, I would say. He is at the same time he is a student in agricultural university, so he knows all cutting edge approaches for farming. And his idea was to experiment with a VRA, variable rate application strategy on his fields. So usually he spent about 4,000 euros per each field with like about 6.5 hectare each of them. And like in our previous example, he bought our solution, and it was quite funny because he has a very old combine harvester, which is about 30 years old. But we could install it, and we got all yield maps of all of his fields, and we analyzed which of them are not efficient anymore. And this is how we were able to benefit from putting different doses of fertilizers and seed and save about like 1,100 euros from each field. If we multiply this sum by 20, by 30%, so we achieve really big amount of money. So the next slide also demonstrate how we help him to save on the soil samples. Again, using yield maps, farmer can see his weak and strong part of the field, and this is how instead of having and getting soil samples like blindly, farmer can go directly to the places and investigates what's happening with his soil. So this is how we saved about 100-300 euros from each field to him. So the last slide would be about our further steps. So what is important in yield monitoring system is that it also can generate prescription maps. So we provide farmers with prescription maps that they can easily put into their machines like tractors or fertilizing machines. And these machines will put different doses by themselves. So it's a big advantage. Farmer doesn't need to think about these spots, and everything works automatically. So I finished. Thank you so much for your attention. If you would have any question, I'm very open to discuss them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alfia. It was brief but informative, so thank you very much. Now, because of limited time, I ask next presenter, Lizzie Aflediani, Business Development Manager, who is presenting Kalu portal. Be very, very short if possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Vano. I'll try to keep it in mind. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, participants. It is my pleasure to be presenting here today on behalf of Kalu and contributing to this very crucial conversation on the climate change and agricultural development in Georgia. Helping farmers grow more and better is the motto of Kalu. And in my presentation today, I'll be talking about and giving you an overview of how our efforts at Kalu, how we try to achieve this through our activities. Next slide, please. Kalu is Georgia's first digital agri platform. Our mission is to improve small-scale farmers' yields and livelihoods. We were established in 2016, and our platform offers inputs such as multi-vendor marketplace for tailored agriculture advisory inputs. The platform features high-quality educational content, targeted farmer outreach and communication services to promote best practices and facilitate risk management. And in addition to training videos and how-tos, Kalu offers personal digital consultancies, including pest and disease recognition, as well as mass SMS and push notifications. We also offer financial services through crop marketing via connecting farmers to buyers, and cutting-edge technologies, of course, for precision agriculture. Kalu's Agrometer, which is a soil scanner tool, which I'll elaborate on later on in my presentation, is a fast and affordable tool for soil fertility monitoring and analysis in real time. Next slide, please. Kalu has a built-in info hub for awareness raising, which is one of our most important aspects of our operation, because we strongly believe that before the technological uptake, we need to actually increase awareness about the problem and issues surrounding the practices and the importance of upgrading these practices. Kalu is a very popular online educational platform for farmers. As a social enterprise, we work with local agribusinesses as well as prominent international and local donors. We have developed about 215 educational videos and articles that demonstrate key techniques to help farmers optimize the quality and quantity of their outputs. And they have accumulated, our videos and our content has accumulated over 5 million views. Our newest set of videos that we published recently surround the topic of climate change adaptation, have accumulated over 500,000 views, and they cover the topics of soil fertility management, modern technologies in agriculture, impact of climate change on agriculture, and methods of adaptation to climate change, agropreneurship, integrated crop protection, and IPM, as has been discussed earlier by my colleagues, organic agriculture and agroecology. And this content can be accessed for free on our public domains on Kala's Facebook and YouTube channels. And besides online content, Kala also produces high quality booklets and brochures with locally sourced technical knowledge. Next slide, please. So Kala is committed to climate smart agriculture, of course, and for this we'll work with farmers, agribusinesses, and policymakers for a more sustainable agriculture. We leverage cutting-edge technology for sustainable, efficient, and more profitable farming. And for this, we offer products and services to streamline processes, reduce waste, for example, overuse of fertilizers. And I would like to emphasize once again, that's one of the biggest challenges in agriculture in Georgia, and optimize yields through services such as soil scanning, biofertilizers, crop protection, drip irrigation, pesticide application, and more. Of course, our goal is to shift to sustainable agricultural practices, and this can be done through our team of agronomists with advice on agroforestry, carbon sequestration, and improved manure management. And I'd also like to note that on our platform, we sell high quality, stress resilient, and pest and disease-free seeds, which are crucial in climate change adaptation. Next slide, please. Of course, climate smart technology is one of the ways to contribute to climate smart agriculture. And for this, Kala has recently acquired Agrometer, which is a branded product by Kala. It's a soil scanner tool, and you can see on the top right-hand side of your screens. It's a portable device, which was invented and created in Wageningen, the Netherlands. And Agrometer optimizes crop growth management. It boosts yields and supports farmers in adapting to climate change. So how does it work? With Agrometer, farmers can simply scan a soil sample, upload it for analysis in the application, the mobile application, and within 10 minutes, they receive a detailed report generated with personalized recommendations. And on the first table on the screen, you see the soil fertility status table. The report is provided for 8 elements, which is pH, organic matter, total nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, clay, cation exchange capacity, and soil moisture. And the report is generated in numbers, of course, as well as in ranges, so low, medium, and high consistency and composition of these elements in soil. And based on this information, on the lower table, you see the personalized report and recommendations that are given for this specific case. And in this specific case, the recommendation is to add and use 16 kilograms more of nitrogen, 16 kilograms more of phosphorus, and 255 kilograms of organic matter. So through fast and reliable soil analysis, farmers now have access to the information to optimize the use of fertilizers on their farms. And in order to make the predictions accurate, Kala, with its own resources, calibrated 3 regions of Georgia based on 195 samples collected from Kakheti, Shida-Kartli, and Kwemo-Kartli regions. So our services are already available. And it's possible for our agronomists to make a visit on the farms or it's also possible to send the soil sample to our team and receive this report and analysis based on that. Next slide, please. So I'll sum up that, of course, we don't stop here. Our efforts don't stop here. And we're working hard now to bring the license for cow feeds and leaf cares. So the scanner, the agrometer, also allows for leaf tissue and animal feed nutrient analysis, which is also important and contributes to the climate smart agriculture practices. It allows for best harvest management and precision feeding, of course. And our team of agronomists will regularly monitor current global trends and developments around precision agriculture, and we work to place the most innovative climate smart technology in the hands of farmers in Georgia. Next slide, please. I would like to end here. I would like to thank you for your attention and participation, and you see our contact details on this slide. So please get in touch to explore ways of how we can tackle this challenge and contribute further to the development of the industry in Georgia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lizzie. I'm happy to see that RDFG's project is further growing and developing. And now I'd like to switch to our last presenter, Georgi Khurashvili, who is also RDFG's former team member.
Hello, everyone. First of all, it's a big pleasure for me to be participating in this conference. I try to be as short as I can. Next slide, please. At the beginning, when we started this project with FinExCoop, our team with international expert last year visited a lot of apple orchard farms, and main problem always from farmers was this pesticides was low quality. So they didn't like pesticides and things. So then we start thinking what is the main problem, because we know that nowadays in Georgia you can find any kind of molecule with any kind of European or all over the world brands. Next slide, please. And then we find that main problem was not pesticides. There was a problem of to use right product, right time. And this is because of lack of information from farmers, because they did not know information about disease and insects development phase and also weather forecast. Next slide, please. Also, there was a problem that nowadays we reduce molecules which is nowadays a lot of farmers using in apple orchards, and this causes also some problems. Next slide, please. Then we start thinking what is the best way to for us to solve this problem, and we find that we need to find some kind of technical assistance for farmers. Next slide, please. And then we start to project with FinExCoop, a meteo station project. We find this software, RIMPRO. I didn't go inside the meteo station because Mr. Zviad explained it very good. And with RIMPRO, we start to with scab and coding moss, and it's have 4 benefits. First was environment protection. Second was less resistant to pests and disease, and also main important is saving money. Next slide, please. So we start to launch 3 cooperative around the meteo stations with around 10 to 15 farmers, and gave this meteo station information to these farmers. Next slide, please. This is a maps where we installed these 3 meteo stations. Around these 3 meteo stations, there was around 10 farmers. In some cases, there was 15 farmers. And we start to send them flashes with the information came from meteo station. Next slide, please. Total area was around 300 hectares, and one international expert and through technicals was transmitted this information, and they are answering this question then also about the meteor station question. And we also install pheromone traps against the colding moths. Next slide, please. In last season, we sent around 21 technical flash in one season. We also make some on-field trainings and classroom trainings to explain how meteor station works. And most of the farmers were satisfied for these flashes, and the orchard was phytosanitary very clean. Next slide, please. This is one of the example how we send the flashes. This is a flash number 10. The first page was a podcast. Next slide, please. We also try that farmer need to learn themselves how to translate these diagrams into the information, and we always send them these diagrams. We can find, for example, this is a SCAP diagrams, and we also transmitted information from them. Next slide, please. This is for colding moss. Next slide. In 1 year, so most of the farmers was happy. The phytosanitary was quite good. We launched one cooperative, and we gave materials with FinExCoop meteor station to them. Next slide, please. This is one of the example how in France it's happened. This is one of the biggest region for apple, and there is a map where meteor station is located. Next slide. There is around 110 meteor station, and farmers every day take by SMS information from these meteor stations. Next slide. At the end, the meteor, this small with our project, it shows that with small stakeholders in apple orchards, it's possible to use meteor station. Our farmers at the beginning, they was thinking that they can't transmit this information from RIMPRO, but nowadays they can use definitely RIMPRO and meteor stations. Next slide. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Georgi. Very appreciated. I'm really grateful to all our presenters. It was not easy task to squeeze all this technical information and all presented stuff in 10 minutes. So I really appreciate that and hope we'll have other opportunities to discuss other aspects of economy digitalization and also some innovations in modern agriculture. Thank you very much. And I am returning floor back to Lola or to Dilruba or to Kansu.
To me, Lola.
Okay.
Great. Thank you very much, Vano. It was really, really good. You're always very good at moderating the sessions. And I'm also very grateful to all the speakers. Yeah, so the third plenary makes basically the conclusion of the entire program that we have. This is the most interesting panel because here we will be discussing what future potential is available, what could we bring to Georgia. And with this, I would like to give also the floor to our next moderator, Dilruba Ertürk, Project and Finance Manager of FinExCoop Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lola. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Great. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your participation for our international conference again. It's a pleasure to host you today. In this third plenary, as mentioned by Lola, we will discover how we can increase the potential and outreach of smart green agricultural technologies, green innovations in Georgia. We will focus on the current state in Georgia. We will focus on smart agricultural technologies in land management point of view, and also we will discover the potential path for increase the smart agriculture technology for specific needs in this area. And I do not want to take so much of your time, and I just want to invite my first speaker. Just before it, I want to mention that due to time limitation, I can't ask you to keep your presentations as short as possible, if possible, of course. Thank you very much for your understanding as well in advance. I want to give the stage to Mrs. Nato Moisoradze, who is the first deputy chairman of the National Agency for Sustainable Land Management and Land Use Monitoring, LEAPL. Mrs. Moisoradze, floor is yours. Can you hear me well? I think you're on mute.
Hello everyone, my name is Nato Moisoradze from National Agency for Sustainable Land Management. I represent National Agency, and in the last 30 years in our country we did not have any kind of development until 2019, when Parliament of Georgia renewed the law about institutional reform. So for nowadays, there's no accountability of land use in Georgia, but we're starting that from year 2024. That's why this agency was created, and from its and what it will do is, based on GIS systems, we will create a database of the land. Next slide, please. For this, we create a concept of land use and accounting. We developed the management system, and we created all the events that is needed to create such kind of database. We did pilot session in 2 municipalities, Lagodehi and Dedoprisparos, based on internationally applied method Corina Classic, which means accounting the land balance according to 39 criteria, and we are planning to put out these results on website that is under construction yet. This database was created with help of with involvement of 9 different organizations, and on free territory we declassified the photos. We did quite an intense job, which meant turning IMAPs into polygons to declassify pasture lands. We created locations and database for private usage lands, as well as governmentally used lands. Next slide, please. Then after that, we did the declassification on the field. We checked the information about the crops because and it's very important for our countries, because it's under this kind of crops are under subsidized by government of Georgia. So after 30 years, we started calculating the cultivable lands, pasture lands, and classify them into their criteria. This information will be reached to the farmers. We want to create some applications where farmers can where they can change the status of their land, as well as change the update whether or not it's cultivable or not cultivable. So we came up with conclusion. We did some statistic analysis of different crops, whether it be for binary, whether it be for soil management, or whether it be for non-cultivable land. Next slide, please.
Next slide.
Mhm.
შემდეგ სლაიდზე რომ გადავიდეთ.
Next slide.
კიდევ შემდეგზე.
One more.
და ისევ კიდევ შემდეგ სლაიდზე რომ გადავიდეთ.
One more.
იმიტომ რომ ვცდილობ რომ რაც შეიძლება მოკლედ მოგახსენოთ.
I'm trying to keep it as short as possible.
ამ სისტემამ ასევე მოგცა საშუალება თქვენი ცით.
This system also allowed us to, as you know, there are two types of cadastre going on in Georgia. One is for hazelnuts, another for grapes. Those are in different systems, in ABACO systems. Ours in a GIS system. And we do analysis. How was hazelnut cadastre conducted? Which was conducted by farmers and local municipalities. By cooperation, we also do the statistical cooperation regarding grapes, cadastre, which we do according to farmers' declarations from 2004. We also compared the information to 2004 existing cadastre. We think that this new land management system will be useful firstly for farmers, so they can use all kinds of services for their lands. Also, we will create the system about land coverage and land usage, which will also contribute to a fair income revenue system for the Ministry of Economy. This is all what I wanted to tell you. I try to keep it very short. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Maysuradze. And we will continue with Mrs. Anna Shivalova, who is the founder of ATIS Caucus.
Hello, everyone. If you don't mind, I will impress my greetings in the end of my speech. So I'm Anna, and for the past 2 years, I've been bringing new farming ideas to Georgian clients. And today, I would like to share our little big achievements in that field. Next slide, please. Let's quickly outline the topics I will be discussing. First, I will shortly introduce our company, when I will delve into 3 key factors for successful innovation improvements. And after that, I will also provide cases of implementing 3 different technologies. And lastly, I will talk about the simplest technologies for onboarding farmers into innovations. Next slide, please. So our company, ATIS, was established in 2021 as a technology assistant. Little by little, we have expanded our services in terms of bringing the best agricultural and business practices. But I hope one day we will start spreading them from Georgia to the rest of the world, of course. And this year, we took first steps in trading from Georgia to European Union markets with support of our European partners. So, talking about our experience, we have identified 3 crucial factors for effectively implementing technologies. Next slide, please. And the first factor is being prepared for technologies. It's essential to be ready to adopt new tools, because if your farming team isn't tech savvy, we suggest solutions that are easier to learn, even they may seem less glamorous. Let me explain this. Some agribusinesses have an outstanding fleet agricultural machinery, complete with onboard computers, variable rate application, parallel driving, and so on. But in the village, these productions are located and have its human resources no one has ever seen this miracle of engineering mindset. And then tractor operator takes the driver's seat. He confused because he simply doesn't know how to operate this modern machinery. That's why the readiness for technology adoption should be explored before the implementation. Let's move to the second factor on the next slide, please. Here, now we will talk about transparent and swift ROI calculation. Technology creators often promise quick returns in their marketing strategy. However, we calculate the return on investment for each specific production based on its current management states. For instance, if an agronomist has never used weather analytics, it will take time to become effective in working with weather data. Due to this human factor, ROI will require more time. And if it's not clear to the business owner before the implementation, there is the high risk of negative experience with innovation. And may I ask you to move to the third factor, please? So the third factor we observed is managing resistance to change. It's a pretty common scenario when a business owner or farm manager is open to implementing innovations, but faces resistance from his team. And the team may believe that their current agricultural practices are perfectly effective. And their favorite argument, this is what our parents did for centuries. I believe everyone in innovation has heard this before. So the key idea of this slide is simple. All of us need to have patience to transform this resistance into support while we are bringing innovations. Because changes scare people, but changers will come for sure. And now let's move from philosophy part to real examples on the next slide, please. And start with my favorite satellite technology. This year, the satellite and its vegetation indexes helped us calculate hazelnut yields with remarkable accuracy. Typically, we use satellites to regularly monitor plant health, and it greatly work for field crops, but this year we experimented in the forecasting of hazelnut yields. And on this slide, you can see one of the observed orchards, and it's relatively small, only 1.7 hectares. But from my point of view, the results were auspicious. And this experiment has inspired us to expand our forecasting efforts for the next year. And for sure, we will test this insight-intensive orchard next year. Next slide, please. So here I want to present is the usage of farm management system. In one hand, this is a fantastic tool for discipline and education. And normally farm management system have helpful tools like decision support system or task planning, task tracking, and all of them are really convenient in the daily routine. In our hand, it provides detailed reporting across all aspects of farming after this task tracking. And as a result, agronomists can evaluate the performance of inputs and pesticides based on data from previous season through dashboards. Plus, farm managers can prepare a report for regulators or certification just in one click and save tons of time for reporting. And talking about our experience, we observed that the transparent and analytical approach greatly impacts on cost optimization. It's like reading your old dear diary when to analyze your previous mistake to prevent them from happening in the future. And now let's move to the third case, please. Where is the sensors and real-time weather monitoring? Here, I cannot tell more than Mr. Malazonia or Mr. Bobokashvili and Mr. Eradza mentioned in their speech before. I can only confirm, because the real-time information is critical for effective short-term planning and for decision-making. Here you can see examples of data from orchards in Chidekartli. And to be candid, the data from the soil season doesn't look promising. But the good thing that we already know about this problem, and we can fix this for sure. And to conclude this part of my speech, the examples I've shared involve advanced technologies. But now, if you don't mind, I would like to highlight simpler and cost-effective technologies that can be the first steps and help to onboard farmers into this wonderful innovation world. Next slide, please. All these technologies are nearly free or involve minimal expenses. And first, let's discuss about free satellite weather data resources. And of course, these are not sensors or weather station that provides the accurate information, but it might help farmers to start learn data-based decision-making and start to learn risk management. As for the second technology, I mentioned GPS. It is used to monitor equipment movements because the speed of tractor movements is one of the most important factors in the proper spraying of plant protection products or foliar fertilizers. Without proper tracking, it's really difficult, really challenging to make accurate assessment of the effectiveness of spraying. In simple words, if a tractor driving fast with pesticides so fast, the usage of these pesticides don't have the proper effect on the plant protection. And if the tractor drives too slowly, there is an overspreading of pesticides. And okay, lastly, this might sound funny, but I really advocate using Excel before any digital technologies. Excuse my colleagues, but while task tracking through smartphones and real-time dashboard may be impressive, if an agronomist or farm manager is making reports like on the paper notebook, you should introduce them Excel templates first, because the journey to impressive results and to the greater future starts with small steps and needs habit changes, needs discipline. So I believe my time is over. On the last slide, you can see my contacts, and thank you very much for attention. Thank you very much for each speaker and FinExCoop team. I'm your big fan. Thank you.
Thank you very much as well for this very clear and to the point presentation. It was very informative. Thank you, Anna. And I would like to proceed with the next speaker, who is Mr. Romain Vidal, the Chief of Project at BRL. The floor is yours, Mr. Vidal.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Yes, we can see your screen.
You can see my screen, yes?
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, so my name is Romain Vidal. I work for BRL, which is an irrigation service provider in the south of France. And also, so sorry, I have the feedback of the Georgian sound on my side.
I think the simultaneous translator is in the English channel right now. Could you please turn back to the Georgian channel?
Let me check.
It seems to be fixed right now. You can proceed, Mr. Vidal.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so my name is Romain Vidal. I work for BRL, which is an irrigation service provider in the south of France, and we are also an engineering company supporting different governments in the preparation of irrigation and agriculture projects. And I will speak about the use of smart agriculture technologies for state and policy purposes for land and water management. So I will start this short presentation with a brief reminder about the importance of sustainable agricultural development and improved water management in Georgia. As it was mentioned at the beginning of the event, the Georgian agricultural sector is characterized by several types of farming systems with significant differences in practices from one farm to another. And supporting the development of the agricultural sector to revitalize the rural areas, meet the demand for agricultural products in urban areas, requires careful attention to the use of water and land. Studies on climate change in Georgia highlight the trends towards soil degradation and increased growth due to rising temperatures, changes in rainfall patterns, changes in wind patterns, etc. And projects are right now underway to increase irrigated areas, but this requires a detailed understanding, both current and prospective, of water and soil use and availability to ensure sustainable development. To illustrate this slide and these issues, you can see here a picture of the Yuri River, which is an essential water resource for the agricultural sector of East Georgia, because it supplies several irrigation systems operated by Georgian Amelioration. And there is also a photo taken and shared by the Georgian Farmers Association, taken by Ilya. It was taken during a demonstration of alfalfa sowing by drone in Sartichala. So it illustrates both the development of new technologies in Georgia and the changes in land and water use with large farms development. And it requires for the state to rethink how public policies can support the agricultural sector. So from the state's perspective, the introduction of new technologies can meet a number of challenges. On the one hand, ensuring the best possible use of land and water in a context where much land lies fallow and where water resources previously considered as abundant are now impacted by climate changes. Secondly, to address the new constraints, the physical, social, economic constraints resulting from a changing environment. And finally, to support the design of public policies adapted to the previously mentioned challenges. So the state needs accurate, timely, comprehensive information for guiding the design, implementation, monitoring and evaluation of agricultural and water policies. So the state needs a wide range of information to know the territory, the agricultural land use, and it was previously mentioned by the land agency, to know the agricultural land use and the dynamics of land use, the type of cropping systems, the state of resources, soil, water, forest, the type of farms, etc. You need information to plan projects and interventions and support the farmers, and you need information to monitor and evaluate the impacts of public policies. But there is often a lack of reliable and up-to-date basic data, and there are not enough financial and material resources. This is the case in Georgia, where, for example, hydrographic monitoring networks provide only partial information on water resources. Also, the National Environmental Agency is implementing some actions to rebuild a reliable network. And we are therefore in a situation where private stakeholders usually have access to better and more information than public systems, because private players, sometimes supported by public entities, are more able to use new technologies. You have some private firms and service providers with sufficient capacities to make the best use of smart technologies. They have the access to the information. They are able to implement the technologies. And you have some public players currently making a limited use and promotion of smart technology despite its use, its interest in addressing the resource constraints, in addressing the information needs and responses to local and regional challenges. In the south of France, awareness has grown in recent years of the importance of working of different scales to deal with climate change impacts and economic transformation of rural areas. Combining the potential of new technologies at plot, at farm level, at irrigated system level, at watershed or territory level, supports the implementation of more integrated and sustainable approaches for agricultural development. As a supplier of irrigation water, BRL supplies irrigation water to 4,000 farmers and more than 100,000 hectares in the south of France. We have embarked on a project to develop information system for the infrastructures we operate, combining the user's data and facilities infrastructures operation data using multiple sensors in order to optimize operation, to identify the problems, to make water and energy savings, while providing a more efficient and reliable service to our customers. And of course, we try to provide some advices based on the new technologies, some advices for water users. This work on information systems has been replicated by BRL on several subjects, with the aim of supporting countries using the potential of new technologies to understand where the challenges are and how to address them. This is the case, for example, in Malawi, where we supported the Ministry of Environment to implement a new system to adapt the activities according to the weather risks. In Kenya, to anticipate extreme floodings, for example, so to save time in the distribution of alerts and to save lives. In Cambodia, to build a resilient action plan at regional scale by assessing the seasonal hydric stress. And of course, in France, to make the right decisions for the operational management of hydraulic works. So the idea is to work from big data to go to smart decision. For that, you must be able to consider different spatial and time scales for strategic planning. And recently in Saudi Arabia, we put forward proposals for an integrated approach to the use of new technologies and new information in an area aiming to revitalize the agricultural zone, working at both plot and territorial scales, and therefore thinking on different spatial and temporal scales. Finally, we think as engineering company, irrigation service provider, and advisor to ministries and technical and financial partners of countries. We think that an important challenge in smart agriculture technologies is to be able to bridge the gap between technical analysts and policymakers, or between farmers and policymakers, and between theory and practices. Because when we try to support agricultural smart technologies, there is always a gap between the theory on the paper and the practices on the field. So the challenge is not so much to produce reliable data as to use it, to combine different scales of thought and action. And this is important. Smart is something relative. It depends on where you stand. What is smart for someone, for a farmer, because it increases his productivity, may be not so smart for another farmer, or it is not smart for the state. And maximizing the positive impacts of smart agriculture technologies requires smart farmers, so trained for it, and smart policymakers, policymakers who are aware of the impacts of the smart agriculture technologies and who are aware to monitor and evaluate the impacts. And I will end the presentation with this very brief study case. In Morocco, with the Green Morocco Plan, they supported the development of micro-irrigation. by implementing some subsidies for the farmers up to 100% of the cost of the system. The idea, the philosophy behind that was to save water, to increase water savings. But in some places, it resulted in overuse of water and increase of water conflicts. So an adverse impact for the territory, because some farmers, it was less difficult to irrigate with micro-irrigation, so they started to intensify, so to increase the density of crops on their plots, and to increase the crop area. So at the end, you use more water than before the introduction of the policies regarding micro-irrigation. So this is the message I wanted to share today. Each situation is unique. What is smart in a specific context, maybe not in another. What is smart for a farm, maybe not for another one. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't push for new technologies, you shouldn't push for development of micro-irrigation. It can be very smart in some contexts, but be careful, you need to monitor and evaluate the impacts. Thank you very much, and I will put my email address in the chat if you have some questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vidal. It was very valuable experiences in land and water management and experiences in several different countries. And we learned that all experiences belong to each different context. Thank you very much for your contributions. And I will proceed with Mrs. Karina Valley, who is the head of public sector at AXA Climate. The floor is yours, Mrs. Valley.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you well, and we know that you are participating from a train.
A train.
Yeah.
Yes, a train station.
I know. Thank you very much for your efforts, by the way.
No problem. Well,
Thank you. Go ahead.
Sure. Well, firstly, a big thank you to Christoph and his team at FinExCoop for inviting us. We're really honored to be able to present our work to you today. So just to give you some context, so AXA Climate has been set up to help organizations, governments, and people to tackle the climate and the environmental crisis that we see ourselves in today, and to adapt and prepare for the future. Can we go to the next slide? So our backbone is really based on science. So we have a team of peril-specific scientists. So we've got agronomists, climatologists, hydrologists, and they're really at the heart of everything we're trying to do. And data as well is obviously a key component, from satellite data, yield data, climate modeling, etc. So on this very robust scientific base, we provide a number of different services. We first started out by designing parametric insurance that's using climate data to really trigger automatic payouts. But we've also now started providing consulting through analysis and advice on climate adaptation and how to transition. And we've also built new mechanisms and strategies to try and finance that shift to regenerative agriculture activities. And then finally, we train by helping companies upskill and engage their employees to succeed in the sustainable transition. So on the next slide, you can see, I just want to deep dive a little bit on the consulting aspect, so you get a bit of a larger view on what we're doing on the agriculture sector specifically. So we're working with large agricultural enterprises to assess what impact climate change will have in 2030 and 2050 on specific crops grown in specific locations, and then looking at really how to adapt to those potential risks that are specific to those crops and locations. So is it heat waves, droughts, water stress? And we're using IPCC, so the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, climate models, which we then downscale. And then we look at two scenarios. So there's business as usual, the kind of the worst case carbon emission scenario. And then we also try and look at a more optimistic scenario. And here you can see we've analyzed supply chains for raw materials for a major perfume company in more than 90 supply areas. And we've tried to help to identify alternative supply areas. On the next slide, you can see we've done some work on a fruits and vegetable cooperative in India. And we've looked at modeling the crop vulnerabilities at each of the phenological stages of the crop that we looked at. I think it was grapes and tomatoes here, and then quantifying the impacts on yield and quality. Then on the next slide, we're just zooming in on the adaptation work. So I think adaptation planning is really the ultimate objective of these kind of analyses. Not only do you need to understand the climate risk that's going to come, but you also need to translate this into financial impact and then into an action plan, so on how you can actually avoid such losses. So what we've done here, we've done exactly, well, essentially just doing a very tailor-made adaptation plan for this animal health and nutrition company. And then on the next slide, this is just another key aspect that we've just started. It's predicting seasonal yields based on statistical modeling and weather data. And so far, this has just been done for cereals in Europe, but we're hoping to expand this further. And then the next slide, we have done a lot on climate analysis, but beyond that, I think we also see a very strong need for channeling financing into agriculture in order to reduce the carbon emissions from one of the highest emitting sectors. So on the next slide, you can see we've just well, we were kind of the catalyst in setting up a fund with a number of impact investors. So this includes Unilever, a French investor called Tikeo, and then AXA's own investment team. And what's the aim is to really get to pour 1 billion euros over the next kind of 10 to 15 years into regenerative agriculture businesses. And AXA Climate our role is really acting as the risk and impact advisor to the fund. So we're trying to look at the issue from various perspectives. And then on the next slide is finally just focusing on the core of our activities and why we're really here today, which is leveraging the data and technology to create parametric insurance covers for the agriculture sector. So a very simple example is using, if you can think of daily rainfall data from a weather station, for instance, to create a drought cover. And then you could look at maybe what is the total rainfall during a specific season for the crops that are around the station, maybe with a 1 to 2 kilometer radius around the station. And then if the rainfall is below a pre-agreed threshold, so for instance, you could say below 20% below the 10-year average, then a payout is automatically triggered. And then the payouts would be bigger the more severe the drought is, so or the less rainfall there is. And a key part of all of this analysis is to really calibrate the index by comparing it historically to the actual losses suffered on the ground. So we would tend to use yield data if it's very robust to try and make sure that the index is really mirroring very closely what's happening in reality. And parametric insurance does solve a number of key pain points from like the normal traditional indemnity insurance that everyone's used to. Because there are these quick automatized payouts, you don't actually have to send someone on the ground, on the field to assess, how much loss there was, what the actual amount is to pay. And this dramatically reduces the administrative costs and the time. And then on top of it, you've got this very objective data. So we're using satellite data, weather station data, or even official yield statistics if they're reliable and robust enough. And this means that there's transparency, there's reliability. It's much more robust, transparent payout processes. And then on top of it, there's here it says no exclusion. Sometimes there's very few exclusions. Because you're really focusing on the data as the main trigger, so there's no real need for exclusions. And then if you can, on top of that, use kind of public structures that are already in place or aggregators to really distribute that insurance to the end beneficiaries, you can even reduce those distribution costs even further. And on the next slide, this is just to show you kind of a quick overview of the public sector programs that we're insuring. So this doesn't include the kind of private sector. But we've designed and provided capacity for multiple national agriculture insurance programs around the world. So this includes, I think, the largest globally, which is India, which is based on yield statistics and it's bundled with bank loans. And we reinsure programs also in Asia, so China, Vietnam, Thailand, Pakistan. We're part of the big program in Brazil, and across Africa, we've set up different schemes. And currently, one of our big projects is working with the Mexican Ministry of Agriculture and Finance to set up a parametric drought and excess rainfall insurance program for the country's smallholder farmers. But equally in Europe, we're not really involved on the public side, but we are insuring many agriculture and cooperatives and enterprises, including many of the vineyards against hail, frost, drought, fire, and those kind of climate perils. And on the livestock side, we've developed programs with the World Bank covering sort of dry pasture based on a vegetation greenness satellite data called NDVI. And I think Bruno from Pacifica will also discuss this. And we're also working currently on a trigger based on temperature and humidity to understand the impact on milk production specifically. So on the next slide, you can see just a little, I mean, it's a bit boring slide, but you can see a bit of the granularity and the diversity of the different satellite data points that we can use. So a lot of this is free. You've got historic data going back to the 1980s in some cases. Obviously, the more accurate and the more granular data has only gone back to the more recent satellites that have maybe been launched 2015. So you do have kind of compromises to make. Either you get long history or you get more accuracy. But here you can see, for instance, there's ERA 5 rainfall data, CHIRPS rainfall data, which is a granularity of about 5 by 5 kilometers, and it's available on a daily basis. You can also get more complex indices like the water requirement satisfaction index, and that's taken into account very like crop specific coefficients and trying to understand for each crop what is their daily water need at each phenological stage and how much of that water has actually been given. Soil moisture is also becoming increasingly popular because it's taking into account rainfall, but also temperature, and then kind of translating that into the end impact on the soil moisture itself. And then finally, as what I mentioned before, you've got this key indicator that's usually used on drought for livestock, which is NDVI, measuring the kind of the greenness of the territory. And this has got an excellent granularity of about 250 meters, although obviously it's not daily, it's every 16 days. So we test a number of these indicators before we really opt for the one that best models what the actual losses on the ground are. And that's, I think, the key thing with parametric insurance. And then just this kind of the last two slides, I wanted to zoom in on livestock, which I think is maybe a potential area of focus for Georgia. We've done a number of projects with the World Bank where we use statistical analysis to assess where the similar kind of agroecological zones are for each of the kind of NDVI or greenness index that we want to structure. So this allows us to create a specific index for each similar zone, and then you really pick up those local specificities. And then just on the last slide, I wanted to just show you that what we've seen with this NDVI kind of dry pasture product is that it allows the pasture greenness, the level of drought to be assessed, obviously every 16 days, and you can therefore trigger payout as soon as a drought has been detected. And this fast payout allows the livestock farmers to purchase more feed and actually avoid the cattle or whatever the livestock species are from dying. And this is much more beneficial than the traditional mortality cover that compensates a livestock farmer only after the animal has died. So I think there's that value in the early warning, where it's got this preventive element. So I think just to sum up that I know climate change is obviously going to have a significant impact on the agriculture sector in the coming years, but I think already we see a need from the current weather fluctuations that there's a need to support farmers to become more climate resilient and for financially protected in those bad years. And then that will allow that sector to really flourish in the long term. And I think insurance can really be a key component of allowing that flourishing to occur. So thanks to everyone, and welcome any questions if we've got time.
Thank you very much, Karina. It was super impressive presentation delivered from a train. And we really thankful for your participation today because the parametric insurance itself, especially in the smart agriculture and livestock fields, is one of the key components of FinExCoop project as well. So we pay important regard to this area. Thank you very much for your contributions again. And right now, I would like to proceed with Mr. Daniel Sayak, who is the head of sales at Airbus France, and together we will discover Airbus's defense and space technologies for agriculture. Stage is yours, Mr. Sayak.
Bonjour to everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yeah, we hear you very well, thank you.
Thank you. So we can move to the next slide. And first, I would like to, like many others, thank all of you for this opportunity to introduce what we are doing in Airbus regarding satellite imagery. But after what I have shown already earlier this morning, I understood that most of you are very familiar already with satellite imagery. So my name is Daniel Sayag. I belong to the organization Airbus Intelligence you see on the slide. That means that from the big Airbus, let's say where we have commercial planes and helicopter, we don't care. I belong to this part called Airbus Defense and Space. And within Airbus Defense and Space, some of my colleagues are doing military planes, some others are doing satellite system. We don't care either about all of that. And we care about services that can be provided with satellite imagery. And especially the services produced by from optical satellite, optical and SAR satellite, let's say observation satellite. We are there. Next slide, please. Sorry, perhaps it's very sunny. Let me, if I can, it's will be better. So as you see on this slide, we are one of the main players in the area of the satellite operation. We have plenty satellite, or in the area of the optical, or in the area of SAR, radar. We are even accessing some satellite regarding signal intelligence, but it's more for defense and security purposes. If we focus on the environment monitoring, in fact, we have the fleet. We have a full fleet of several resolution, because at the end of the day, what is needed is to have the coverage of the area as often as possible, and sometimes with a lot of detail. I could say from the beginning that we are not the best, to be honest. Planet might be better for daily coverage with low resolution, but when we move to higher resolution, then we can be the good player. Next slide, please. Obviously, as you can imagine, our satellite imagery are used for several applications. You can see on the slide from defense and security, maritime, oil and gas, security, blah, blah, blah. But in fact, let's say that the main application are the map. At the end of the day, we need to map when people, they need to have information, geo-information, they will use satellite imagery, or UAVs, or airplane, or send someone on the ground. And one of the main applications from the beginning is agriculture and environment monitoring. That means from the beginning of the satellite imagery, besides the military use, I mean, those guys have started before us to look at abroad. Besides those applications, the use of satellite imagery for agriculture has been developed for many years. And I think, as I saw in the earlier presentation made today by my colleagues, it is no more needed to demonstrate that it is useful to get geo information from sky, let's say, UAV or satellite. If we can move to the next slide. And the next one again, because this one was more focused on Pléiades Neo, we'll come back earlier. Regarding agricultural portfolio, of course, what we can provide from the beginning is what you see on the top left, means high resolution imagery. And most of the participants I saw earlier today are using satellite imagery or let's say geo-information, UAVs and so on. So it's the same kind of image, data. And we are one of those players providing a wide range of data on as practical mode, as easy mode as possible, easy, digital, blah, blah, blah. Then from those data, the data can be used by those players, or we can, on our side, sometimes develop some applications. What you see on the bottom, of course, via artificial intelligence to develop crop identification, crop analytics, and biophysical metrics. That is one of the first. My predecessor was talking about the NDVI. Look for any anomalies. So it's a time analysis, early warning. If you detect any change that is that will open red flags, and you will launch an alert or an analysis. With artificial intelligence, automatic field delineation is one of the topics I will come back later, but very quickly, I know that we are with the time is limited. But thanks to the high resolution, it is one of the best or one of the most efficient use. And obviously yield estimation and any kind of management, irrigation, fertilizer, and so on, in order to support the farmer and to help him to save money or to make more money. If we can go to the next slide. I think I will not go a lot in this application because my colleague who will speak after me, I think, is involved with us in this kind of application. In fact, we are providing our data in order to create at the state level a global pasture index on the level of 10 years. It's very useful. It's related to the insurance. It's one of the first level. Again, I will not go in the detail because I think that it will be detailed later in the presentation. So please, let's go on the next slide. Obviously, we are all of us. We are talking about precision farming. At that stage, we can say in one of the slides I wanted to enhance the fact that we have several kind of users. Let's say we can do 2 or 3 boxes. The first box is obviously the institution, means the government, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Environment, any public organization that needs to have the global understanding of what happened in their territory, in their country, and so on. And on another hand, you have the private players, the farmers, association of farmers, cooperatives, blah, 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 who will need to have some dedicated information in order to optimize the operation, save money, make more money, do better, and so on. In France, we are talking about precision farming, means providing accurate information at field level, at pixel level, at tree level, at fruit level, perhaps sometimes, for some players. In France, we have developed such kind of solution using our satellite imagery, but we do not do that alone. We do that with some local partners. Here it's Arvalis in France. And we have created for many years this service called FarmStar, providing information to several farmers. You see on the slide that we have more than 13,000 users, and more than 700,000 hectares are monitored. Obviously, it is helping the farmers to optimize the use of fertilizer, maximize their field, and enforcing, as it's written, regulation compliance. If we can go to next slide, please. In this presentation, I would like to enhance regarding the data on Pléiade Neo. Pléiade Neo is one of our satellites, the new kind of satellite. We are providing 30 centimeter resolution. 30 centimeter resolution is very, very detailed, let's say. It allows you to produce very accurate map. And in the area of agriculture, it is opening new applications. Next slide, please. So because of we have this resolution, we have a new revisit capability, and we can add the range band. We can have plenty of detail. Next slide, please. We can go up to tree counts, for instance, or high-value crop with very small field plot analysis. That means that those data made available for precision farming players, operators, scientists, developers could help to develop new applications. Next slide, please. As I told you earlier, one of the application we want to, or we intend to promote as much as possible now is the association of two high-tech, let's say, solutions. On one hand, the very high-resolution satellite imagery, the fact that we have two satellites able to acquire huge area with 30 centimeter resolution data, and in the same time, the fact that we can, thanks to artificial intelligence, extract automatically from those data the limit of the fields. So not only, let's say, the limit of the field, all the vector information necessary to update the LPIS, the land parcel information system, according to the EU regulations. That means that the farmers need to declare the real field, the real area used for the field, extract if you have some trees in the middle, if you have a river, if you have any topic in the middle of the field, you have to extract this area. Thanks to this tool, we intend to develop this application first in EU in order to support the EU countries that needs mandatory to update their land parcel information system database, and for any other players, obviously. If we can go to the next slide, and I think it's the last one. Thank you. I would like to do an experimentation because I would like to apologize. I was not able to show on my presentation some imagery of Georgia. So thanks to the organizer, the presentation was made available via your own site, but I would like to try to share my screen. Do you think it's possible? So that is a question for the organizer.
Sorry, could you please repeat?
Do you think I can share my screen?
IT team, could you please reply? Can he share?
Yeah, we can
Okay.
we can see the screen now.
Yeah, we see right now.
You see? Okay. Yeah. So I have asked my colleagues to do some extract of PlayNeo data over Georgia. So it's without any processing, I don't even know where are located the area, but I will make those data available via the organizer later. But I wanted to show, I didn't want to do a presentation without showing images of your country. And you see on this field that you can see, you can even count the trees. Here it's some field area. It's a landscape along a river. That is another large image. And then you have some zoom. Again, you can count the trees. So obviously it's PVC, so it's more an urbanism area. This one, your national stadium. And one suburb. That's it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sayag. It was very interesting presentation. We learned a lot. Thank you for your contribution today.
You're welcome.
I would like to proceed with Mr. Bruno Lepoure from Deputy Director of Agriculture and Promotion Market at Pacifica, which is the Credit Agricole's property and casualty insurance subsidiary. The floor is yours, Mr. Lepoure.
Thank you very much. Can I share my screen, I suppose, because I have a particular presentation?
Yes. Feel free to share your screen.
Okay. No, I cannot now. Okay, just a moment. Okay, could you see it?
It is coming. Yes, we can see right now.
So just a moment, full screen. Okay, it's full screen now. Okay. So thank you very much for the invitation, and thank you, Karina and Daniel, for the teasers you made regarding the presentation. Crédit Agricole is the French agricultural bank, well known, first bank in France and historical bank for French farmers, with about 80% of share market. And we are the insurance branch of Crédit Agricole. Not only in agriculture, but we have a department in agriculture I was in charge in. I want to talk about grassland insurance or pasture insurance because it's a solution we have launched a couple of years ago in partnership with Airbus. And I would like to explain you what was the story of this launch, and at the end, the key factor of success I would suggest, or I would highlight to you in case you want to have the same experience in Georgia. First of all, to recall that fodder or pasture is a key for the farmers' revenue. It's about 40% of the French landscape. It's about 12 million of hectares. So it's very important in terms of territory, but it's key for the revenue because just have in mind, we have measured that a fall of 30% of pasture production, sometimes, depending on the system, is about 50% of loss of revenue for the farmer. So it's very sensitive, and it's very important to have a kind of security in fodder for farmers. So insurance was needed for years. But the problem is that classical insurance techniques are not applicable for pasture. It works for the other crops like corn, wheat, fruits, vegetables, vineyards, etc., but doesn't work for pasture. Why? Even if we have in France a large number of loss adjusters, expert loss adjusters, they are not able to measure the lack of pasture production. The reason are two main reasons for that. The first reason is an agronomical one. The pasture is grazed by the animals, by the cows, for example. So it's just impossible to measure what the cows have eaten or not. Even if, in other cases, if it's harvested, there are different harvests during the year, 2 or 3 harvests. And historically and generally, farmers do not wait their harvest. So it's just impossible simply to estimate the weight of the grass during the year. If you ask farmers to what was your yield in your grasslands, they don't know. They really don't know. Maybe 3 or 4 tons. They don't know, and even more, they don't know what was the historical yield. Why historical yield? Because we have to compare in an insurance program like multiple crop insurance or pasture insurance. We have to compare the annual yield, the yield of the year, to an historical reference. So it's just impossible. The second reason is that there is no accountancy for the crops. Even if farmers do have an accountancy in France, they do not measure or have that weight, the level of yield in their books. So the solution was to use satellite monitoring. That's the reason why we have worked for 12 years with Airbus to develop a solution to monitor pasture in the world territory. How does it work? First of all, the satellite takes a picture each year. It's a picture done at a medium resolution. It's not the highest resolution possible because we need a high frequency of visit, And we also need to have an economical system. So we take a picture. This picture is about at a municipality level. It's not really the municipality, which is an administrative area, but it's an agronomic area with the same type of pasture production. At this level, we have about 17,900 different areas in France. You see, it's very focused. So with a single image per day, you can draw a kind of profile of the production during the year. So for each area, we take a picture each day to draw the curve of the current year. But by chance, because Airbus gets the data for more than 20 years, we can also draw the curve at the same area in the past. Last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, etc. What we do is to draw the current year, to consider the current curve and the historical 5 years average curve. Why 5 years average? Because this contract of insurance, I will detail later, is a contract that is subsidized by the European Union. And the rules and regulation from European Union is to have a reference of 5 years average in the past. It's just possible because Airbus gets the data from years. What is the principle of the contract is to measure and to protect the difference of production between the annual yield and the historical yield. This difference is the red area measured during the granted period, which begins the 1st of February and ends at the end of October. And during this period, we measure the difference between the two curves, difference of the integral, and this difference is a percentage. For each area, we are able to measure the loss of production in each area each year. For example, one area could have been decreased per 38%, on the neighbor area only 14%. By doing so, we are able to map the whole territory and to estimate the loss of production at a very precise level. The next step is an insurance step, because we are cross-referencing those loss of production with the contract of the farmer. Each farmer, by subscribing a contract, is saying, where are my plots? And we are cross-referencing the loss of production with the plots that the farmers has insured. And then, by doing this calculation, we are able to calculate a lack of production for the whole farm, because fodder is calculated at the integrated level of the whole farm. Farmers have plots in different areas. At the integrated level, we are able to calculate the global loss and to make an automatic payment without claim declaration and with an automatic way. It's a kind of parametric contract. This is how it works. Now I would highlight some key factors of success. The first one is when you launch a parametric contract, it's very important to have a scientific validation that it works. It's really key for different reasons. First reason is that it's a subsidized contract. When you get money from European Union or French government, you have to prove that your system works. Second one is that you have to gain the confidence of farmers to be sure to be absolutely sure that what you are saying is the truth, and also to gain the confidence of the farmer unions, etc. So we have launched different scientific protocols, and one of the most relevant is a kind of game satellite versus mower. with hundreds of plots were mowed by you see a mower there on the bottom, and the correlation between satellite and mower measures are very, very good, because we have get 82 level or 82% of correlation, which is a high level. And there has been 2 scientific papers that has been written and published for that. Second key factor of success is to get good and reliable data. We have chance to have data available since 2003, and from Airbus, it's very important to make the price, to price the risk. For an insurer, it's important to have the largest data available to price the risk. And it's important to have extreme years like 2003, 2010, 2019, which were historical drought years we have faced in France. As you can see, in 20 years, many years were really, really affected by drought, except 2 years. Each year, we have been faced severe drought in part of the territory. Second information is that no part of the territory is now immune from drought. Third key factor of success is that we have a long journey to gain the confidence of farmers and manage the basis risk. Gain the confidence of farmers is hundreds of meetings with farmer unions, groups of farmers, technical institutes, Ministry of Agriculture, etc., to fine-tune the system and make the system the more accurate, and to gain finally the confidence of farmers. Managing basis risk is to really avoid from payment. If we don't pay a farmer for a risk he has, for a damage he had, the farmer will never buy an insurance contract again. And the opposite is also true, because if you pay where it's not needed, you lose the confidence of the market. And last key factor of success is, for such a system, you need to collaborate with public authorities, with the French government, French Ministry of Agriculture, European unions, because regulation for subsidies are coming from European Union, and from the insurance sectors. It was important because today we are at the bottom of a new period of this contract. We have launched these contracts 5 years ago. Less than 1 million of hectares are insured today, but beginning next year, the 1st of January, it will be the only system in France for the whole territory. All the insurers will use this protocol, this index, to monitor their portfolio, and also the public sector, the government, will use the same index for the ex post aid that are provided by the state. We have 2 systems in France: insurance or public aid, covering 100% of the territory. Next year, 100% of the territory will be monitored by this index, and we will identify farmers even by insurance or by the public ex post payment with the same index. And we are very proud of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bruno. It was very illustrative and informative presentation. I would like to proceed with our last speakers from the Georgian Farmer Association. I would like to invite Mrs. Tamtam Mamulaodze, who is the team leader and also the head of Agri-Tech and Innovations Department at Georgian Farmer Association. And she will be accompanied with Mr. Alexandre Gambashidze, who is a junior agronomist, certification and agronomy department at Georgian Farmer Association. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. მოგესალმებით ყველას. დიდი მადლობა მოწვევისთვის. ჩვენთვის ძალიან მნიშვნელოვანია ჩვენი ციფრული
Thanks for inviting us to tell to big audience about our products. Georgian Farmers Association, starting from 2007, started digitalizing this sector. And today I'm gonna present just some of them, starting from 2017. And now today we moved to a new level where we are now establishing hardware plus software integration in Georgian agricultural sector, which of course means more result-based technologies in agriculture. And we want to change the productivity level. Next slide, please. Productivity level among Georgian farmers.
Please, thank you so much. საქართველოს ფერმერთა ასოციაციამ შექმნა ციფრული ჰაბი GFA
Georgian Farmers Association created a digital hub that unites several digital products, which was funded by international donor organization and particularly us, Georgian Farmers Association. First one is Agronav AI, which is an artificial intelligence platform that helps farmers giving recommendation and which land should they produce what. And it was funded by Georgia Innovation Technologies Agency. Aggregate.world, that is the first digital platform that combines Southern Caucasus, Armenian and Azerbaijani touristic locations together. What's worth mentioning is that aggregate.world, you can both book the locations as well as get different services. GFA grants org.g. It's very important that is connected with farmers' benefits to be under one roof. So this website combines it all. We are also presenting next slide, next platform, which is crop monitoring. For every solution we are using, we use solutions for another platform we want to talk about is agroskills.g, where farmers can get the knowledge and get certificate and start working. All these platforms are available under GFA, under one platform, gfa.org.g, and I'm going to share it later.
Hello once again, it's my pleasure to be here. As my colleagues talked earlier, I'm going to continue talking about satellite imagery services and the benefits it brings to agriculture. Next slide, please. So the satellite working method is directly reflected to lights that the satellite lenses see, from which it determines the indexes of vegetation, moisture indexes, and etc. Next slide, please. It has quite few features, for example, like field monitoring, weather data, zoning, scouting, and field rating. Next slide, please. So to talk about one of the most important features that the satellite imagery provides is the vegetation indexes, starting with NDVI. Next slide, please. So NDVI is the first index which measures the greenness and the density of vegetation captured in satellite image. The next index is NDRI index, which is the correspondence of the amount of chlorophyll in the plants, and this index is used to determine the vegetation of plants mid to late growing season. Next index is SAV index, which is is used during seed germination and leaf development stages. The fourth index is RESI. It is the indicator of plant health and can be used effectively in nutrient management throughout the season, and it also determines the chlorophyll consistency in the leaves. Next slide, please. So this is the one case that we provided that the satellite imagery has focused on the plants that were killed during the winter time. So about the resolution, the satellite Sentinel-2, it's called the satellite, which provide images every 4 to 6 days at 10-meter resolution, but it also has a feature to provide HD images every day at 3-meter resolution. So next slide, please. So this is one of the indexes, also REDS index, which is used to determine whether the farm and plants need nutritional management or not. Next slide, please. So this is also the field rating, which allows us to see the downfall and uprise of our indexes, and after that we can act. So next slide, please. One of the most important features of the satellite imagery is that it has weather data dated back from 1980s, also has a daily accumulated percentage, daily temperature, minimum of maximum, sum of active temperatures, evaporation, also relative humidity, wind speed and direction, cloud percentage, and early forecast of future 2 weeks. All of these features are really important in agriculture to plan, from planning harvest to taking actions in pest management control. Next slide, please. So this is one of the indexes that detects moisture levels in leaves. So it can be used also for field flood identification, or whether our cultural plants need water, or we are giving them too much at this time. Next slide, please. So also this service has also the availability of generating vegetation maps and productivity maps. So we can guess which part of our field is more productive and which is less, and we can then act the same. Next slide, please. This is also the image of productivity map that I was talking earlier. We can see the red dots that are not productive and the green ones are more productive. Next slide, please. So one of the features is also scouting. Just like in Google Maps, we can take the GPS coordinates and send to our coworkers who would check that place and then resolve the problem. Next slide, please. So this is also a vehicle data manager. It has the ability to connect with John Deere equipment and tractors, and can do the fertilization works also. Next slide, please. So here are the benefits of using this program. I want to take 2 minutes and talk about the program that we are using in Georgia. This service is provided by Georgian Farmers Association about 1 year. The second year will start this month, and about 20 to 30 farmers in Georgia are actively using this service, and they are really grateful, and we are continuing to introduce such new technologies that would make farmers' lives easier in Georgia. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your invitation. That's all from my side.
Thank you very much, Alexandra and Tamta. It was very interesting presentation, and we are pleased to hear the GFA's digital projects and your support to Georgian farmers on the field as well. Thank you. This was the end of our panel today, and actually it was very informative panel, which will let us ask to discover the smart green technologies and what can be done in the future as well for specific needs in this area as well. I would like to give the stage back to Lola for the closing plenary. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dilruba. Yes, indeed. I would like to thank all the speakers. It was not an easy to collect and combine everybody because it's end of September, everybody was busy. So we deeply, deeply thank all the speakers of the first, second, and the third plenary. Yeah, big thanks to all of you. And we are also excited to, in the future, if there were any participants who would like to get specific presentations of AXA Climate or Airbus or other ones, we will be sharing all those materials on our website, and you will have access to them, or we will be also able to help you organize one-to-one meeting with AXA Climate. I think Karina wanted to mention that, but since she was in the train, I just wanted to add that the element. So without further ado, I would like to give the final speech to our Alui, the lead project officer for the South Caucasus at IFD. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lola. I guess you can hear me perfectly, and I will be as concise as possible because the time has been extended. So once again, I would like to extend my warm thanks to all of the people who attended, presented very interesting technologies and prospects. And as my colleague Tanguy mentioned it, AFD has a mandate and commitment to preserve public goods, and we've seen during today's conference, both from what's already being done and also what could be done, the numerous ways and opportunities to move forward in this direction. Today's propositions would also be very, very beneficial to AFD's ambition to promote and support the development of an integrated approach that we consider key in the context of Georgia. It's to us like a key element and an approach that has to be implemented because of the intricate situation of the agricultural sector, but also because of the strong potential that we have seen during the development of FinExCoop. And this holistic approach is key to ensure a sustainable and profitable change for the whole change in the long term, because we aim, as Christophe mentioned it, to think long and act short to ensure that the beneficial change lasts. From AFD's point of view, the way ahead is, of course, through building on the achievements of FinExCoop and make a good use of the wealth of ideas that have arose during the fruitful formal and informal exchanges that took place, namely during the working group on smart agriculture, as well as various other meetings. And this is meant to happen for AFD through the finalization of upcoming projects that aim to tackle both, if we roughly summarize, the institutional and local levels, to improve the management of the resource and update the infrastructure, as well as provide technical support to farm level. On the institutional level, AFD is confident that the transverse integration and development of smart technologies will help develop and strengthen a favorable framework within which agriculture can thrive. I think it's been clearly stated by many presentations today that the improved knowledge and the control, improved also control over the resource. And here we can think of water, land ownership, but also more specific aspects like pasture and animal identification would allow for a strengthened strategical positioning and national directions taken for the sector. On the local level, AFD's ambition and vision for the sector is through the support to family farm entrepreneurs, as Christophe mentioned in the beginning. And in this regard, we want to ensure the economic viability of the numerous propositions presented today. It is key to us that the development of smart technologies and agrarian innovation be accessible and beneficial to as many people as possible. And in this process, we believe that also the development of agricultural cooperatives, which FinExCoop is working on, can enhance the benefits that can arise from the mainstreaming of smart tech and agrarian innovation. I think I will not expand further, and I would once again thank you, all of you, for the very fruitful conference. It was very informative, and I think highlighted very well the needs for actions on very different levels, from crop level, both all the way to institutional strengthening. And I am thrilled with the perspective for the sector here in Georgia. So I suggest that we find room for all the great propositions that have been mentioned today and continue working together to scale up successes of FinExCoop for the benefits of the Georgian agricultural sector. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Aloy. Yeah, one more time, I would like to thank all the participants, moderators, all the speakers of this conference. It was a very great pleasure to host you all and to hear lots of different insights and to contribute for the development of Georgia. We thank also MEPA and EU delegation and AFD for giving us also opportunity to organize such conferences. Within FinExCoop, we are also looking forward for more and exciting future for Georgian agriculture development with inclusion of smart technology. Thank you very much. I would like to thank one more time the translators who have been working very hard for us. And with this, we close this conference, and we look forward to see you. For the information on the video and on the presentation materials, we will soon be posting that on the FinExCoop website, www.finexcoop.org, where you can see and have a look both at presentations and the video recording of this conference. Yes, www.finexcoop.com. Thank you so much. We thank you one more time, all of you, and we hope to see you in the future.
Mm-hmm.